subscribe, like the video, and, if possible, join Patreon. But if you don't have much money, you can support the channel by watching the novels on euroaudiobooks.com. Remember that you can participate in the polls so that your favorite novel gets published for free.
A small island about half an hour away from the island. On a big tree, a Pokémon is humming. This is a small humanoid Pokémon with a slender body and looks like a little Stephanie, with a height of 40 centimeters. It has light green hair with streaks that represent the Masa Beat Factory. The slender arms connect to the small, oval-shaped black hands, which look like quarter notes on a piano score. The hair hangs down and curves slightly toward the mouth, giving it the look of a mat-style headband. This Pokémon is jumping in the forest, humming a song. Unexpected, its ears moved a bit. It was very sensitive to the sound. When there was a melody, it tilted its little head in doubt. It listened attentively, and the light in its eyes became brighter and brighter. It sat on the branch of the tree, listening to this soft and poetic melody. It closed its eyes, and its body swayed slightly, following the rhythm. Listening to it, the corners of its mouth were curved, and it was extremely joyful physically and mentally. With a beautiful melody, the player who plays the piano has a peaceful mind, without all the disadvantages of other human beings. It can read people's hearts through melody. It has also heard human playing, but it only hears fame and fortune, desire for money, ambition, and intrigue. It's curious who exactly is playing this. It floated up and flew in the direction of the melody. There are some clerical errors in the first 2 chapters. I am used to typing Sizer as Scyther. This chapter is mostly daily. Let's make a transition. Tomorrow is the beginning of the long-awaited plot. Chapter 75. Singing Pokémon Meloida's dance form, Team Rocket's base is discovered among the mountains and forests. This girly Pokémon looked up at soaring in the sky, listening to the faint melody in his ears. It was full of interest in the piano player for a while. Who could this be? Is it human? Or a Pokémon with the same rhythm as me? Jigglypuff? No, Jigglypuff can't play, it can only hum. Feel the melody that makes it happy physically and mentally, and feel the peaceful heart of the player in this melody. It wants to hear more clearly, and also wants to know who played this beautiful melody. It floated into the air and flew towards the direction where the melody came from. Leaving the island where he was, he flew over the sparkling sea, with constant flying. Soon, the melody is getting clearer and clearer. It seems to be lying in the ocean of music, the sea breeze, the lazy sunshine, the sound of the waves below, Polyper passing by and making a long bird song. Everything seems to be in harmony, echoing this beautiful melody, and it is completely natural. Near, a large island appeared in front of it. This melody came from the center of the island, and it was so excited that it couldn't help speeding up and flying forward. The whole island fell into peace in this melodious melody, as if listening quietly. Long time, it came to the middle of the island. The island is a vast plain with lush green grass and a small lake in the middle of the grass. Next to the small lake is a beautiful manor. In the courtyard of the manor, a human being is sitting on a chair with a piano in front of him. His slender fingers are like butterflies, normal dancing on the black and white keys. They are really human beings. In this world, there is still this kind of human beings who have no fame and fortune in their hearts, are like a piece of white paper, and are as pure as soaring in the sky. It is a melody Pokémon who likes listening to music very much, can grow up in the 983 of the music and enhance its own strength in the melody. Human beings are a magical species with very strong creativity and imagination. They used to like to go to the human world to listen to humans singing and playing, although the melody they played was nice. But behind this beautiful melody, the naked people are all cannibalism, fame and fortune, and greed. Over time, it no longer goes to human cities. It closed its eyes, felt the incomparably beautiful melody from a quiet distance, and felt the cells in its body cheering. Listening to it live is 1,000 times or 10,000 times better than listening to it from a distance. It enjoys the gluttonous feast of this music extremely. Soon, the song is over. The note jumping between the mountains and forests disappeared, and all the Pokémon were still unfinished. Sabrina and Cynthia opened their eyes, and the eyes were full of brilliance, reminiscing and intoxicated. Wow, Master, you can play the piano so well. Those pianists will die of shame if they hear you play. Sabrina exclaimed exaggeratedly. It's not so exaggerated. Chen smiled, but he still enjoyed being complimented by his apprentice. Cynthia looked at Chen and couldn't help sighing. What else does Mr. Chen not know? Mellow, suddenly, a Pokémon flew down and came to Chen. It looked like a Lost Elle girl, looking at Chen with glowing eyes. Looking at this Pokémon that he had never seen before, Chen blinked his eyes. He looks like a little Stephanie, only about 40 centimeters tall, with light green hair streaked like music beats. In the detection function of the system, the name of this Pokémon is also displayed, Meloetta. Looking at each other is like seeing a superstar. Miss Lostell's eyes made Liu Kong feel a sense of pride. Unexpectedly, after playing the first piece of music, I actually got a fangirl. Meloetta looked at Chen with covet in her eyes, because it was shocked to find that after listening to the other parties playing, its own strength became stronger, and the melody tree also changed. Do you want to hear it again? Meloetta nodded like a chick pecking rice, like a child who has never watched cartoons. Chen couldn't help laughing. Okay, let's play another song. He sat down again. Cynthia and Sabrina looked at Meloetta in shock. The legendary Pokémon, Meloetta. Cynthia is because she was lucky enough to meet Meloetta once, and Sabrina is because Meloetta is a Pokémon of the superpower system, and she has known about it. Meloetta is a rhythm Pokémon. It is said that the song it hums is the most beautiful song in the world. It loves peace. If you want to subdue it violently, its singing can also manipulate people's hearts. It's the Pokémon that every virtuoso player dreams of. In the early years, it is said that Meloetta could be seen in some large-scale concerts. There have been no such rumors for many years now. They sighed in their hearts. Unexpectedly, Mr. Chen, Master, played a piece of music and attracted this Pokémon that everyone dreams of playing on the piano. Looking at Meloetta Lostell's sisterly eyes, it is obvious that Mr. Chen, Master, has been convinced. As expected of Mr. Chen, Master. Naturally, Chen didn't know what the two women were thinking, and he didn't know that this weak-looking Pokémon could be a legendary Pokémon. Seeing Chen, Meloetta agreed. Mellow, its eyes bent into crescents, and it flew to an open space several meters away from the piano. It dug a small hole and then planted a ball of light in it, then signaled Chen to start. Chen smiled, Tin danced on the keys, and the beautiful melody sounded again. Listening to this beautiful melody, Meloetta's body slowly floated up, and light bloomed on her body. She closed her eyes, put her hands tightly in front of her body, and then opened her mouth softly. A beautiful singing voice hummed softly from its mouth, like a harmony accompaniment, forming a chorus with Chen's piano voice. The melody of the two merged, and in an instant, it turned into a musical note that seemed to be full of magic, beating on the entire island. It's like opening Pandora's magic box, and the melody that flows out, intertwined with mysterious, elegant, ethereal, and soft notes, turns into a spell, making every Pokémon on the island mesmerized. The Pokémon gathered around at some point, cautiously, standing on tiptoe, not daring to make any abnormal movements to disturb this beauty. An incredible thing happened. The ball of light that Meloetta had just planted in the ground broke through the ground and turned into a small sapling. The sapling radiated light green light. It was shaking in accordance with the melody, and while shaking, it grew up against the wind and turned into a 1-meter-high green light tree. This tree is different from ordinary small trees. The trunk, branches, and branches of this tree are all in the shape of staves. Very peculiar. This stave-like tree is swaying, as if absorbing the power of Chen and Meloetta's chorus rhythm. Soon, at the end of the small stave tree, the red light converged, and a bright red fruit grew out, which exuded a rich red light. Surprisingly, it looks like a note. Very peculiar. Mellow. When the musical note fruit was bred from the staff tree, The musical note fruit floated up and merged into Meloetta's body. Then, its shape has changed. The body became more slender, still wearing a brown ballet skirt, and the eyes changed from light green to orange. Long flowing green hair turned orange and swirled around his head. It looks very capable, just like a dancer. There was light in the eyes of Sabrina and Cynthia. It turned out to be Meloetta's dancer form. Only the legendary dancer form exists. Meloetta actually has two forms. Although according to ancient books, Meloetta has two forms that can be freely converted, but it has not been confirmed. On the contrary, it is believed by the vast majority of scholars that there are no two forms of Meloetta at all. Rather, there are two evolved forms of a single Pokémon. Just like Gardevoir and Guladon, just a Pokémon, different evolutions. Unexpectedly, Meloetta really existed as a dancer. Accompanied by Chen's beautiful melody, Meloetta danced in the air like a little fairy descending, and every time she danced, a green light would emerge from her feet. Chen also didn't expect that Meloetta would change shape, and the soft melody is not suitable for body rhythm. With a change of his hands, he changed from a lullaby to a cheerful melody. Far away, the moon god Lunala surged with energy, and the sky of the island suddenly darkened. The stars shone brightly, and the light of the moon shone on the plain in the middle of the island. Accompanied by the cheerful and melodious melody played by Chen, in a short time, the classical music scene became a disco. The Pokémon twisted their bodies following the rhythm, filled with laughter. After a few minutes, at the end of the performance, Meloetta bowed to all the Pokémon and returned to her previous form. Looking at the melody tree and melody fruit that had grown, joy flashed in its eyes. It landed on the lid of the piano. Loyada, it whispered to Chen. The voice already carried the meaning of intimacy. Okay, welcome to join. Chen touched its little head and understood the meaning of the other party's words. Looking at the small tree that looked like a stave not far in front of him, he also checked it out. Melody tree. Meloetta's exclusive small tree, which can absorb the melody to make it grow up and produce melody fruit. Meloetta can make Meloetta's singing and dancing steps more beautiful. It's really amazing, and there are Pokémon who sing specially. Come on, come here. Let me introduce you to a new partner. Chen let Meloetta know each other with his other Pokémon. Cynthia looked numb, and another divine beast settled down. Playing the piano attracted a divine beast, so it's okay. There are two flowers, each showing one end. Kanto region, an unknown forest. 8 figures are quietly approaching a valley, and the icon on 4 of them is a Pokeball pattern with a long gun on the pattern, directly running through the entire Pokeball 0, the emblem of the Alliance Investigator. The Alliance Investigator is formed by champions who have all been defeated. In other words, these 4 people were once Alliance champions. As for the other 4, there are 2 sisters / sisters who wear police / police uniforms and look exactly the same. This is one of the biggest families in the whole world, the Jenny of the Jenny family. In almost every region, they are maintaining order. The other 2, one is from the Oak family and the other is from the Yulong family. They are conducting covert operations. Soon, they enter the valley. Lucario, break it open. An Alliance search officer is facing the mountain in front of him. Lucario punched out, and the gravel splashed, revealing a hole, which was actually hollow. Metal passages are exposed inside, full of science fiction. Really, everyone showed a clear expression. Who? A shrill alarm sounded from inside. Soon, someone rushed out and saw 2 Jenny in the crowd, and 4 people with the Alliance search officer logo on their chests. His face changed, and he took out the walkie-talkie. Hurry up, start self-destructing quickly. Before he could speak, a crimson figure rushed up. Arcanine pressed him to the ground, then raised his paw and slapped him. The man fainted immediately. Good job, Arcanine. Jenny patted it on the head and continued. Quick battle and quick decision. Behind this base, it should be the organization that caused the Pokémon in the Viridian Forest to go berserk and created the organization that can force the Pokémon to evolve into sound waves. The rest nodded. This is a tripartite joint action of the Oak family, Yulong family, and Alliance. At the beginning, the mysterious organization created weird sound waves, causing the Pokémon in the Viridian Forest to evolve forcibly, and a riot broke out. This made Alliance furious. There was actually an underground organization hidden in Kanto, and no matter how they investigated, they couldn't find any clues. And the evolution of the sound wave makes them panic and feel threatened. This kind of power is really terrifying. 80% of the world is ordinary Pokémon. This evolutionary sound wave can force these Pokémon to evolve violently. They can't imagine what it will be like if one day the other party uses this sound wave method to radiate the entire Kanto region. When I think of the Magikarp existing in rivers, lakes, and ditches all evolving into Gyarados, and the picture of thousands of Gyarados running amok, my scalp becomes numb. And Professor Oak is also furious. His breeders' Yuuzhan family all evolved symptoms in this weird sound wave. As a result, the departure time of the new generation of trainers this year has been delayed. Even if it is delayed, the number of Usangia is still not enough. That's why these families joined forces and have been secretly looking for the whereabouts of this organization. Today, I finally found the teller's feet exposed by the other party. 8 people rushed in. All of a sudden, it reminds me of Growl and explosions. After an hour, there was no movement inside. Everyone is under control. Smiles appeared on the faces of Jenny and his group. After so long in the investigation, the organization was finally arrested. It's not easy. 1.1. This organization is so deeply hidden, and their Jenny family mobilized more than half of the family's power to find a clue. This forest is rarely visited by people. When they investigated, they found that people always entered this forest and then disappeared. It had been more than half a month since the O appeared, and strangers came out every time. So, they guessed this forest is definitely not normal. It took another week, with people watching 24 hours a day. They finally determined that this valley has a large-scale base, which was built in the mountain and hollowed out the mountain. Then the action steps were formulated to block the possible camera signals, and we officially started today. Take them all in one fell swoop. Jenny also breathed a sigh of relief in her heart. She no longer has to worry about facing countless runaway Pokémon and hordes of Gyarados one day. Come to the central control room of this base. Jenny is also curious about what kind of organization this is. The base did not self-destruct. All the documents are there. Jenny checked the information. The pupil shrank suddenly. It's not. This is not the main base, but a tiny transfer battle. Jenny's eyes instantly became extremely dignified, wanting to trace the existence of this organization. However, it was discovered that this organization is a pyramid-like structure. Only the upper layer can find the lower layer, and the lower layer cannot find the upper layer. And it's one-on-one. This is to prevent being bullied by others. Continuing to read the information. This base is used as a transfer station, and what is transported is something called gene fluid. And the next stop for transportation is in Tokiwa City. Jenny's eyes suddenly narrowed to a point. Viridian Gym? In the lower right corner of the app, you can see the 2 forms of Meloetta and the Melody Tree and Melody Fruit. Chapter 76. Alliance Rassiege of Viridian Gym. Appearance of Zapdos. Mutwo's progress. Jenny stared at the information about the base. This base is actually not the headquarters of this mysterious organization, but one of the transit stations. It seems that they're transporting something, some energy fluid // body, experimental body, and some herbs, berries, evolution stones. Jenny knows some herbs and tree fruits, which are extremely expensive things, and even some big families can't afford to squander them casually. Even some of the materials shown in the information are things that Jenny has never heard of. What is this organization doing? Such a large base is not the headquarters, but just a transfer station? What are they transporting these things for? For a moment, a lot of doubts arose in Jenny's mind, and at the same time, a chill ran down her spine. To see the whole leopard at a glance, passing through this base is enough to show the power of this mysterious organization. Such a terrible organization is dormant in Kanto. As the Guardians of Order, they have not received any wind. What a terrible thing this is. Since it is a transit station, where are the items on the list going? With doubts, Jenny continued to flip through the files. Suddenly, a line of small characters caught the eyelids. Kanto region, Jobin City, Viridian Gym. Boom! Jenny's head went blank, like thunder in the daytime, making her face turn pale in a flash. What's wrong? When the others saw Jenny's appearance, they couldn't help leaning forward. Next second, they also saw the small print. The pupils dilated suddenly. The breathing became short of breath, and a turbulent sea arose in his heart. How? How is it possible? Viridian Gymnasium. That is one of the 8 gymnasiums of Kanto Alliance. The position of the gymnasium owner is second only to Elite, but in terms of closeness, the relationship between gymnasium and Alliance is closer. Duh. The next place to be transported by this mysterious organization's transfer station is the Viking Pan Gym, which means Changpan Gym is also one of the bases of this mysterious organization. Has this mysterious organization actually invaded the Alliance? Jenny's face turned pale. What a terrifying existence. How many people from the other party have been placed in the Alliance? Is there only the owner of the Viridian Gym? Or are there others? If there are others, what positions are they in? Could they have been mixed up with the Alliance high level? For a moment, the 8 people couldn't help their scalps tingling. This matter is of great importance, and they dare not delay. They converted the information of the base into photos and wanted to upload them directly to the 667 League, etc. But Jenny stopped an Alliance investigator who wanted to report it. This mysterious organization is too terrifying. I don't know if there are any insiders of this organization in the Alliance besides the owner of Viridian Gym. If there is, the other party is a high-level executive of the Alliance. If you report it now, you will startle the snake. Maybe when you go to the Changpan Gymnasium, the building will be empty. The 4 investigators of Alliance nodded, indeed. But with their positions, they're not qualified to contact the president of the Alliance. Then who do we report to? Jenny glanced at the person from the Oak family next to her and said lightly, Professor Oak. Professor Oak can directly contact the president of the Alliance. Everyone nodded. This is the best way. It is impossible for Professor Oak to belong to this mysterious organization, right? If so, they can simply surrender. Professor Oak was shocked when he heard the news and quickly contacted his good friend, the president of the Kanto Alliance. Badge from Alliance looked at the information sent by Professor Oak and was furious and frightened at the same time. Such an organization is entrenched in the Kanto region, and they don't know it at all, and they have been invaded into the Alliance by the other party. This Tong-Tian method is simply outrageous. The president of the Kanto Alliance intends to use thunderous means to encircle the Viking Gymnasium, not giving them time to react and catching them by surprise. Soon, Yolongdu led a group of Alliance investigators to Tokiwa City. Except for Yolongdu, no one knew that the target of this operation was Changpan Gymnasium. Not long, they got stuck in sky in the evergreen forest. Clearance. Yolongdu tapped a metal instrument on his ear with his fingers. Around the Viking Gym, Jenny came out and blocked the road. It can be vaguely seen that Jenny is in the shadow of the buildings around Viking City, and she's keeping a close eye on Viking Gymnasium. The second group is ready. Jenny's voice came from the tiny earphone next to Yolongdu's ear. How about the third group, he asked. A reply came from beside my ear. The preparations are complete. Yolongdu nodded and landed with a group of Alliance investigators, then said to the 9 Alliance investigators behind him, You wait for me at the door. Yolongdu, a man of high art and bold, walked in. The entire Viking Gym is located on the outskirts of Viking City, occupying a very large ground area. It was the first time he came to Yolongdu. When he was traveling, he visited the gymnasium in Chengdu, and he was not familiar with the gymnasium in the Kanto region. Walking it, he narrowed his eyes slightly. The roads inside the Viridian Gym were somewhat devious, as if it was deliberately designed to make the roads detoured, so that the people in the gym had time to hide things that could not be known by outsiders. The underground of the Viking Gym, it has already been dug and poured with Orberg. This is one of the bases of the rockets. In a conference room, a picture suddenly jumped out of the screen in front of him. Looking at the figure on the screen, someone said, Master Archer, it's Yolongdu. Archer frowned slightly. Why did Yolongdu come here? Could it be that it came for the Dragonite before? His mind went back to the dreaded Dragonite that had come with Larvitar. Archer got up, took the elevator with several people, and came to the gymnasium. On the other end, Yolondu also came out. "Mr. Lance, why are you here? You were so handsome in the championship challenge. I didn't expect that even the legendary Pokemon Moltres is not your rival." Archer greeted him with an excited face, as if I saw the idle normal. But out of the corner of his eyes, he caught sight of the miniature earphones in the ear of the other party, and the corners of his eyes narrowed slightly. Yolondu sized up the person in front of him. "It's not the owner of Viridian Gym, Giovanni." "Who are you? Where's Giovanni?" "The owner Giovanni has gone out on business. I am the acting owner. Here is my certificate." Archer took out the certificate of the acting owner. "Where did Giovanni go?" "This is the owner's private matter. It is not convenient for us to ask about it. It is said that the Pokemon of the owner is about to break through. He is going to travel to find the opportunity to break through." Archer continued, "But don't worry, Mr. Lance. When the new generation trainer sets off, the owner will definitely come back." Yolondu said, "Then do you know about energy fluid / body and gene evolution fluid?" Archer's heart stopped suddenly at this moment. Why would Yolondu know? What the hell does he know? Alliance has received a report and suspects that there are contraband in the Viking Road Museum. Please allow us to check carefully. Archer was slightly taken aback, and then said with a sneer, "Our Chongpan Gymnasium has always been law-abiding. As a Taoist temple in the Kanto region, it is directly under the jurisdiction of the Alliance. How can we hide contraband? Dude, we found it." Listening to the voice coming from the miniature earphone, Du said to Archer, "That's right. As an organization directly under the Alliance, how could it do such shady things?" "Then I'll go first." Yolondu raised his foot, pretending to go out. Archer breathed a sigh of relief. Next hair, bang, bang, bang. There was a huge sound from the ground, and the ground trembled in the rumble. Archer's expression changed. "What happened to the base?" "Your organization is dormant in the Kanto region. What's the plan? What are the supplies used for?" A harsh word came. Feeling the movement of the base under his feet, coupled with Yolondu's words, Archer's face was very ugly. It is not difficult to guess that they have been exposed. Fortunately, there is nothing too important in this base. Yolondu throws a pokeball, and Dragonite appears. "I advise you to catch them without a fight, and tell the truth. What is the purpose of your organization?" "Legendary Dragonite," Archer said with a dark smile. "Number 1. Suddenly, a Pokemon covered in metal armor flashes over using teleport. You can have fun with number 1. The metal Pokemon jumped up and fought Dragonite. Archer turned his head to leave. Bang, bang. The roof was breached, sunlight poured in, and more than a dozen Pokemon took over soaring in the sky. It was Ginny outside and the 9 Alliance investigators who heard the explosion and rushed in. They surrounded Archer. "Dude, the base below has been brought under control, and I know from their mouths that the person in front of him is the person in charge of the base and the head of the organization." A person came up. Beside him is a Steelix, a member of the Oak family, sent by Professor Oak to assist in the operation. Yolondu heard the words and looked at Archer. "I didn't expect it to be a big fish, but it's executive you can't escape." Looking at the crowd surrounding him, Archer was not in a hurry, as if he had heard some big joke. "Just you? Catch me." He just threw a pokeball. Zizizi in an instant. A terrifying current filled the air. Everyone felt that their skin was numb for a while. A golden Pokemon with bloated hair and lightning jumping on its body appeared. Thunderbolt. The thunder light condensed. The thunder light was bright, and a bolt of lightning shot out directly and draped on the water Pokemon of one of the joint investigators. Spike. The water Pokemon didn't even scream and lay straight on the ground. "Zapdos!" Yolondu and others exclaimed in surprise. It turned out to be the legendary Pokemon Zapdos. Moreover, I felt the terrible momentum of Zapdos. Yolondu's expression was extremely serious. "Beast level. Monster Zapdos. The executives of the organization all have beast level Zapdos. What kind of organization is this organization, and what are they planning?" "Executives are beast level Zapdos. B. The leader of the organization will have such a Pokemon." Whoosh. Archer rode on Zapdos' back, and Zapdos turned into a golden flash and flew into the air. Don't think about it. Yolongdu threw a Pokeball again, and a white light flashed. The sound of Dragon Chant came, and an extremely strong and powerful Dragonite appeared, Beast-class Dragonite. Yolongdu borrowed it from the family on purpose in order to directly suppress the opponent. Dragonite, take him down. The Beast-level Dragonite spread its wings. Try to catch up. Dragonite of the Beast level. Your Yulong family is really willing, and you are not afraid that something will happen and it will be damaged here. Archer laughed and said, however, you guys should play with number one. He just wanted to kill these people directly. But there are people from the Jenny family, Yulong family, Oak family alliance. Once they are all killed, there will be a big earthquake in Kanto, and they'll be found out by digging 3 feet. The birth of Mutwo has reached a critical point, and extravagance is not allowed. He said to number one, Number one, the restriction is 100% lifted. Ka. The strange metal Pokemon that is fighting against the trump card Dragonite in Yolongdu heard the sound of gears turning. Boom! In the next second, an incomparably powerful aura erupted from it, setting off a strong wind, and the terrifying aura made everyone keep retreating. Whoosh! With a flash, it blocked the beast-level Dragonite. Everyone's eyes widened slightly. Beast level? Another mythical beast? How powerful is this organization? An executive with 2 mythical Pokemon? This terrifying strength made Yolongdu's scalp tingle. The trump card of their Yulong family is just 3 Dragonites. This organization, just 1 executive, has 2 beast-level Pokemon. This terrifying background made them suffocate. Phew! The golden light flew, and Zapdos carried Archer towards the distance. Stop it! Jenny and the others hurriedly said. But the metal Pokemon's eyes flashed red, and then they found that their Pokemon were all locked in the air by confusion. A few chased after them, but they couldn't catch up with Zapdos' speed. Soon, Archer disappeared without a trace. A battle between mythical Dragonite and metal Pokemon. In order to avoid spreading to the city, the beast-level Dragonite deliberately drew it out. Bang bang! The terrifying battle sounds are deafening, and the beast-level battle destroys everything around. The earth was scorched black, and a large forest was destroyed. About 10 minutes, the scene fell silent. The metal Pokemon fell to the ground. Yolongdu and others walked over cautiously, feeling a little strange. The metal Pokemon stopped moving by itself, suddenly became motionless, and fell to the ground. Lift off the metal armor on the opponent. Golduck, a beastly Golduck? But what's going on when he doesn't move suddenly? He's obviously not injured, nor fatally wounded soon. People from Alliance came to take over and search the base of the Viking Gymnasium. But nothing important is kept here. It's like an organizational break room. Moreover, they also questioned the laboratory personnel of this organization. But I don't know anything at all. The only known people in charge of this base are Archer and Giovanni. I don't know anything about other things about the organization. They are just peripheral members of the organization, and the core members have left a long time ago. The only thing I know is that not long ago, a batch of valuable supplies were shipped out by them, and I don't know where they were sent. Moreover, in this year, they have received and delivered a lot of materials, and they don't know where they're going. Afraid that the other party would speak, the people from Alliance hypnotized them with the superpower Pokemon Hypno. The answer is exactly the same. They are not lying. This frustrated Yolongdu and the others. So many people were mobilized, but it was actually this result. No wonder Archer slipped away so fast with Zapdos at the beast level, not worried about the organization's secrets being exposed at all. It turns out that the people in this base are all peripheral personnel, and the core personnel have already withdrawn. But it's a bit of a gain. After all, the executive Archer of this organization was found out, and they also found out that they shipped out a batch of supplies not long ago. Remove all the things in the underground laboratory, go back, and carefully check the hard drive for anything missing. As for the eccentric metal Pokemon, Golduck, it was sent to the Professor Oak laboratory. Archer flew over the vast sea, and he had deviated from his destination and circled many times. After making sure no one was following him, he identified the direction and flew towards his destination. 2 hours later, He landed on a small island. This island is not on the nautical chart. It is an extremely hidden island. It is impossible to find it in the vast sea. In the middle of the island, there is an oval-shaped giant building buckled on the ground like a bowl. Master Archer, someone said respectfully at the door. Archer walked in and came to a huge laboratory with ease. In the middle of the laboratory, there's a huge glass cultivation chamber, just like a large exhibition tank in the aquarium. The cultivation chamber is filled with various energy fluids. A humanoid Pokémon with pale, powdery complexion is curled up in it. The body has grown and the facial features have been formed. It looks like a perfect handicraft. Archer's eyes also flashed amazement. Pokémon never seen before. God-making plan. The Pokémon dreamed by Boss Giovanni, the man-made mythical beast, surpasses the ancestor of Pokémon Mewtwo. It seems that Mewtwo will be born soon. Walking all the way forward, I came to a high platform in a laboratory. A stalwart-like figure was sitting on a chair, with 3 cats lying on their feet. Boss Giovanni. Archer walked over and said respectfully, "Aren't you in the Viking gym? Why are you back?" Giovanni wondered. "We've been exposed, and the Yulong Alliance has come to our door." Archer dare not hide it. Giovanni's face was serious, and the swivel chair turned. "You should know. I gave an order. The God-making plan is in the most critical period. All the actions of the organization have been stopped, and the organization has shrunk. But now you have been discovered by the Alliance?" He looked at Archer blankly. "I need an explanation." Cold sweat came out of Archer's face. This was the eve of the boss's fury. If he didn't explain well, he would inevitably be punished severely. There should be a problem with the transfer station in the Misty Forest. They found Viridian City by following the law. The transfer station will be discovered, probably because of the previous evolution sound wave. The Alliance remembered us and looked for it secretly. But boss, don't worry. Neither of these 2 bases has our core personnel, and the core personnel are all on the side of Proton and Ariana. And neither the transfer station nor the Viking base has any experimental data. Giovanni said, "There are not enough materials to equip the nutrient solution needed by Mewtwo. What about the batch of supplies?" "The supplies have been delivered." Giovanni nodded and didn't say anything more. 2 bases and a group of peripheral members were nothing more than 2.9. As long as Mewtwo is built, there will be as many bases as there are. Looking at Mewtwo and the breeder, Giovanni had a frenzy and anticipation on his face. The Mewtwo consciousness has been born, and it is constantly growing and developing while it is stable. His dream is about to come true. "Boss, Mewtwo's consciousness fluctuates." The excited voice of the researcher came. Giovanni was overjoyed, and his consciousness fluctuated, which meant that Mewtwo had thought. Soon, Mewtwo will be born soon. After the last batch of supplies arrived and Mewtwo absorbed them, it was truly born. What Giovanni didn't know was, the newly born thinking of Mewtwo has spread out. As a clone of Mew, it is born with incredible power and powerful ideas. Home Island. Meloetta is newly joined, and many Pokémon also like this Pokémon who sings well and loves to dance. At this time, it was singing on the grass. The singing was melodious and melodious. Hanhanlong and Gyarados were lying on the ground, squinting their eyes and enjoying listening. The 3 little ones were lying on Dragonite's belly. Their faces were intoxicated, and the 3 little heads were shaking gently with rhythm. They looked very cute with tiger heads and tiger brains. The 3 holy beasts also came over and listened carefully with a look of enjoyment. Sizer, who worked hard every day for special training, rarely did not train, but leaned under a tree, squinting his eyes. This song is very comfortable. Chen was lying on a chair. It was the first time he heard a song when he came to this world. For a while, he couldn't help but let his mind go blank. Entering the calm mind contest condition, let the thoughts continue to diverge. What he didn't know was that when he was emptying his head, his thoughts drifted far, far away. Just then, as if touching something, who am I? Suddenly, Chen opened his eyes in a daze and looked at Cynthia and Sabrina beside him. "Did you 2 talk just now?" The 2 women were confused and shook their heads. Chen scratched his head, feeling strange. Maybe it was an auditory hallucination, and just leaned back on the recliner. Who are you? The voice appeared again, and Lu Chen's eyes widened. The voice didn't appear in his ears, but in his mind. I go. He was dazed, talking in his own head. It's not a system either. What the hell is this? Hell in broad daylight? Or which Pokemon is playing a prank? Chapter 77. The mysterious voice in Lu Chen's mind. Level 2 God. Team Rocket's operation begins. Lu Chen felt the voice in his head. A little confused. Is this a Pokemon playing a prank? Why did it come directly to my mind? Can you hear me? Lu Chen asked. Can you hear me? It's repeating over there. Lu Chen was speechless. Don't imitate me. Who are you? Don't imitate me. Who are you? No, that's not what I said. Don't learn how to speak for me. Why can you speak in my mind? Lu Chen communicated with the voice in his head. But the other party is like a pure white paper. Axu learns language. Mirror move. Lu Chen says whatever the other party will say. Apart from being able to say, who are you and who am I can't tell the meaning of Lu Chen's words. Like an illiterate, but the opponent's learning ability is also very strong, absorbing knowledge like a sponge. Lu Chen patiently taught it, and soon the other party learned to distinguish you, me, and him. I also roughly understand the meaning of Lu Chen's words, but I only know some simple words, and I still don't understand the specific meaning if it is too difficult. But it's barely possible to communicate. Who are you? Lu Chen asked curiously. Why did the other party speak in his own head? Who am I? Its voice was a bit vague, and the words were not clear, like a baby who had just learned to speak. Well, who are you? The voice in my head paused. After waiting for a long time, there was still no answer from the other party. Lu Chen was a little suspicious. Thinking that the other party had already left, its voice came out again. No, I don't know. There was confusion in the unarticulated voice. Who am I? Lu Chen was slightly taken aback, wondering who he was. Then, who are you then? The voice asked. My name is Lu Chen. Your name is Lu Chen. So what's my name? Who am I? The voice in my head seemed to freeze, repeating over and over again, as if a primary school student was stumped by a simple math problem. It's okay. You can tell me later. You just need to remember that my name is Lu Chen. Anyway, even if you don't know your name, we are still friends. Seeing the bewildered voice, Lu comforted. Friend? What is a friend? A friend is two people who are very close. What does 09 mean? It's just two people who help each other. The voice fell into deep thought. Then next time, I must let you know my famous minister. It's okay, take your time. Lu Chen continued. Then where are you now? He was a little puzzled. The voice appeared directly in his mind. It should be some kind of Pokemon's ability. So, is the other party on the island? I don't know. I can't open my eyes, and there seems to be something warm covering me all over my body. Something warm. Lu Chen asked, what warm thing? The other party described it with his few words, and after a long time, Lu Chen probably guessed what the other party said. Warm things. Water, or liquid / body. A word suddenly popped into Lu Chen's mind. Egg liquid? Pokemon eggs? It is estimated that this guess is correct. In addition, the other party didn't know his name. He was blank about the world and words, couldn't open his eyes, and his whole body was wrapped in warm liquid. Isn't this the contest condition in the Pokemon egg? In this way, the opponent should still be in the Pokemon egg at this time. A Pokemon coming out of Shell Smash? I'm sleepy, said the voice in his head. After that, no matter how much Lu Chen asked, there was no movement. Also, since the other party has not yet hatched, it should be the same as a human baby, extremely prone to lethargy. This experience also made Lu Chen feel novel. He was actually talking to a Pokemon egg. For the next 4 or 5 days, the spirits of the two seem to be linked together. The voice of the other party will appear on time. Every time Lu Chen will seriously communicate with each other. In the past few days, it has spoken a lot more fluently and learned more vocabulary. That's it for today. I have to take the Pokemon to weed. Okay. In the warm afternoon, the two chatted for a while and then disconnected. This time the Pokemon didn't fall straight into a deep sleep. The mental power gathers, entrenched in the mind. A smile appeared on the corner of the Pokemon's mouth. After communicating with Lu Chen in the past few days, it also knew that it was still inside the egg at this time, and it was still an unhatched contest condition. These days, listening to the description of Chen playing with his own Pokémon, it yearns for it. When you hatch yourself, play with them. Recently, it also found that it was no longer as lethargic as before, but could maintain the smelling salts contest condition for a long time. For a while, it felt a little boring. It's like seeing what the world looks like. Unexpected, it felt a force coming from within its body, and it was very familiar with this force. Every time it came, its mental power would skyrocket, and its spirit would be uplifted. So these days will not fall into drowsiness contest condition. It also informed Chen of this matter, and Chen guessed that the egg liquid was providing it with energy, and it should not be far from hatching. It is looking forward to meeting with its only friend. A steady stream of warm currents melted into its body. Mental power continues to rise. It was as if quantitative change had caused qualitative change. Suddenly, there was a noise in its ears, as if something was whispering. It was the sound of someone talking. The noisy and chaotic voices were twisted into a ball, and it was impossible to hear what was being said. It can accurately receive the sound of the outside world, and the messy sound becomes orderly. Yes, boss. Mutwo's consciousness is fully formed. The sound of excitement reached its mind, but its eyes still couldn't be opened, and its mental power poured out. The surrounding pictures are clearly presented in its mind. This is the wonderful use of spiritual power. It looked around curiously. It was a group of creatures in white clothes. The human beings described by Chen looked just like them. So, these are human beings. Is Chen among these humans? It felt it for a while, but didn't feel Chen's mental power fluctuations and was a little disappointed the way it was not there. However, why are these human beings looking at themselves so fanatically? Boss, the instrument has detected Mutwo's mental power fluctuations, and it is observing you. Mutwo? Is Mutwo his own name? Joy flashed in its eyes. It turned out that its name was Mutwo, and it could tell Chen its name tomorrow. Mutwo looked at the human in black clothes in front of him. His eyes looked at himself with great excitement. Are you looking at me? Mutwo finally succeeded. The strongest Pokémon I created, reversed Mew's gene, and cloned artificial mythical beast. You are the mythical beast that surpasses your own Mew. Hurry up and be born. I'm the one who created you. When the time comes, accompany me to rule the world and rule the world. The words of the middle-aged man in the black suit were a little crazy, looking at Mutwo like a peerless treasure normal. Artificial? Man-made beasts? Are you cloned by humans based on a Pokémon called Mew? Mew is the subject. Self? Just a substitute? Mutwo's mind was blank. It only hit the environment it was in. It was in a huge container with a green liquid in it, and the body was full of tubes. There are 2 tubes connected to his temples. It froze. It turned out that the continuous energy was not given to him by the egg liquid, but was transported by human beings to his body through these tubes. Not Pokémon eggs, not Pokémon eggs. I am created by humans. I am a substitute from you. Even the name is given by humans for a while. Mutwo's tightly closed eyes were flushed with blood, and it fell into a rage. When it learned the truth, its whole body was uncontrollable, full of bloodthirsty. Even Mew, who had never met before, felt a surge of emotion in its heart. Killing intent. Mutwo was originally cloned by reversing Mew's gene. If Mew represents naughtiness and peace, then Mutwo represents violence and destruction. Knowing the truth of the matter at this time, it activated the tyranny imprinted in its genes. Gurgling Mutwo's mental power went berserk, and a nutrient solution in the training cabin seemed to be boiling, bubbling. What's going on? Giovanni asked. The researcher in the laboratory quickly stared at Mutwo's body data and said with great joy, Boss, Mutwo is consciously absorbing the energy liquid. Its strength is skyrocketing. Normal level, elementary level, normal level, middle level, normal level, high level, normal level, peak, normal level, elite, already elite. Giovanni hurried over, and when he was talking, it was time, and Mutwo's strength had already broken through to elite. They were all stunned. Less than 3 seconds. Elite level strength? Ordinary Pokémon, even if the aptitude is good. It will take several years to be promoted from the ordinary level to the elite level, no matter how fast it is. Everyone was excited. Is this the strongest Pokémon cloned using Mew's gene? Make God. Sure enough, they created a god. What is the level of strength of Mewtwo at the moment of its birth? Giovanni, who has always been serious in speech, also had excitement flashing in his dark eyes. The experimenter on the side felt that he used a computer to calculate, and then got a data. If the nutrient solution and gene solution are sufficient, the moment Mewtwo is completely born, the strength will be the first level of a second-level god and beast. Hiss! There is a sound of sucking air in the laboratory, and everyone's scalps were numb after shock. Birth is a second-level beast. This is simply unimaginable, and this is a realm that many Pokémon and trainers can't reach in several lifetimes. Ordinary Pokémon are at the level of mythical beasts, except for the Pokémon in the mythical beast population, which is a second-level mythical beast, which is something that all Pokémon dare not dream of in their lifetime. Excitement flashed across Giovanni's face. Sure enough, is Mewtwo, the Pokémon that surpasses Mew. Ka. Unexpected, overwhelmed cracks began to appear in the glass of the Mewtwo nutrition cabin. Not good. The strength has increased too fast, and the huge mental power is out of control. Quickly add the dormant medicine. They felt that the medicine was injected into Mewtwo's body through the tube. Soon, Mewtwo fell into a deep sleep. But even after falling asleep, every moment the cells in the body are absorbing the surrounding nutrient solution, enhancing Mewtwo's strength. Boss, the life characteristics of Mewtwo have been stabilized, and the genetic virus can be injected. Experiment the head of the office is humane. Mewtwo is cloned from the gene of the Mega Beast Mew. If successful, this Pokémon will have the same potential as Mew. Coupled with gene reversal, Mewtwo's genes are full of tyranny and destruction, and they don't have the confidence to fully control this Pokémon. They were also afraid that Mewtwo would go berserk by then. Now that they knew that Mewtwo was born as a second-level divine beast, they had to be even more vigilant. If a second-level divine beast ran away, they would definitely suffer heavy losses. But they already have a way to deal with it. They had a way to control Mewtwo when the god-making project started. Gene virus. Inject a gene virus into Mewtwo's gene, and this virus usually has no effect on Mewtwo. But once the opponent is disobedient, they have means to activate the gene virus in Mewtwo's body to achieve the purpose of controlling the opponent. This genetic virus can only be injected into the opponent's body before the Pokémon is born and the genes are not fully formed. Give it a shot, Giovanni said. 910 yes. 3 days passed quickly. Home Island. Just got ready to play Pokémon for lunch with Sabrina and Cynthia. Lu Chun sat on the recliner, frowning slightly. It's been 3 days. The voice of the mysterious Pokémon in my head has not appeared for 3 days. Before that, the two would chat for a while on time every day. Has become a habit. It hasn't shown up for 3 days now. Logically speaking, it is impossible. Could it be hatching? Gathering power? Shell? Smash hatching? Or some trouble? In the past 3 days, because he was afraid that the other party might be in trouble, Luchin also searched the surroundings carefully, but found no Pokémon eggs. He was a little worried. The main base of the rockets. The third-level beast is advanced. The researcher frowned. Boss, the raw materials for the nutrient solution and genetic fluid are not enough. If we don't get supplies before tomorrow, our existing genetic fluid and nutrient fluid will be exhausted, and Mewtwo's strength will stop at the peak of the third-level beast, and we will not break through to the second level. The Super Beast was born ahead of schedule. Why hasn't the last batch of supplies arrived? Giovanni asked. Archer said at this time, Boss, because our base was exposed, the Alliance also knew that we had delivered a batch of supplies before, and now the people on the Alliance have already the harbors in various places are checked layer by layer, and every harbor is empty, searching for the batch of materials we shipped out. Then where are the supplies delivered now? Giovanni asked blankly. In Celadon City. Giovanni is staring at Mewtwo in the training barn. Mewtwo is his lifelong dream, and he absolutely cannot afford to lose it. How's that experiment with Ariana? He said. Archer said respectfully. According to her, The experiment was successful, but only one tentacruel can mutate. I remember that the city next to Celadon City is Vermilion City, and Vermilion City is an international harbor city. You said that if there's a large-scale Pokémon Siege event here, how will Dong Dong Alliance deal with it? Do you still have the time to track down our whereabouts? Giovanni's eyes flash coldly. Let Ariana start the experiment. Vermilion City is the largest international import and export city in Kanto. It is very prosperous here. On the harbor, there are some Alliance official people who are checking for something on the cargo ships. What's wrong? Why are the waves so big today? Next to the harbor, a staff member of the Alliance looks at the violently undulating sea. Hey, what's that? He looked at the sea surface in the distance suspiciously, and there seemed to be a white wave surging there. Seconds later, bang dang. The thing in his hand fell to the ground. His canthus was about to split, and his eyes were wide open. No, tsunami. What a big tsunami! A full, more than 100 meters high. Chapter 78. Huge tentacruel Pokémon Siege frightened Kanto Alliance. Chen disappeared. The shores of Vermilion City. A terrible tsunami was set off. The sea was rough, and this terrible tsunami swept everything. It is 100 meters high. Looking at the 100-meter high tsunami, Vermilion City Harbor, people coming and going looked at the undulating ships and looked at the sea curiously. Then, it feels like the soaring in the sky has dimmed and a monstrous tsunami is coming in the distance. Everyone was stunned in place, and then their eyes were tearing apart and their scalps were numb. This is simply an unprecedented tsunami. Harbor caused a riot, but luckily, this is the Pokémon world, and everyone has a Pokémon. In an instant, white light surged on the coast. They released their Pokémon one after another and rode on them. The Pokémon running on the ground drove its master to death and left the coast. Flying-type Pokémon carry their masters into the air and quickly rise into the air. Rumble, rumble. The 100-meter tsunami was getting closer and closer, and the terrifying sound of the tornado could be felt from a long distance away, and the ground on the coast was trembling. Whoosh whoosh. Dozens of streamers did not retreat with the crowd, but rushed to the coast in Pokémon. It is Jenny who governs Vermilion City, and he leads a group of elite trainers stationed in Vermilion City by the Alliance. It's elite, not elite. A region's elite-level trainer must be more than the 4 elites, otherwise it would be too shabby. The 4 elites are the strongest 4 of the elite trainers. The following is the ordinary Tongtian King trainer under the jurisdiction of the Alliance. As the harbor city of the Kanto region, Vermilion City is the largest water capital for foreign trade. There are mixed fish and dragons here, and people from various regions trade here. Alliance must send someone to guard this place and work with Jenny to maintain order. Everyone in Jenny looked at the terrifying tsunami, and their expressions changed slightly. What happened and why such a terrifying tsunami occurred? But now is not the time to discuss the origin of the tsunami, she said to a group of elite trainers. Everyone, take action and stop it. Otherwise, the Marina domain will suffer heavy losses. They nodded. Gyarados destroy the Death Ray. Lapra's Freeze Rays. Venusaur, Solar Beam. Alakazam, Energy Bomb. Charizard Heat Wave. Mamoswine, freeze the tsunami with a Freeze Ray. Imperial Sea Lion, we also use Freeze Rays. For a moment, energy surged on the coast like colorful neon normal. Various energy skills blasted out of these Pokémon and blasted straight towards the huge seafood. The sea freezes, destroying the Death Ray bombardment. Dozens of elite-level Pokémon shots are incomparably spectacular and powerful. In an instant, the astonishingly powerful tsunami stopped the roaring momentum, collapsed, turned into a puddle of water, and fell back onto the sea. The sea was turbulent, and the ship docked at the harbor was shaking violently. The sea level in the harbor rose, and the water rushed up, flooding some low-lying areas, and the sea level rose, and the waves rushed over Jenny's ankles. Jenny and the others showed relieved smiles on their faces, although part of the harbor was submerged, and the ship was more or less damaged. But compared to the whole filming of this terrible tsunami, the loss could be said to be minimal and negligible. What Jenny doesn't know is At the same time, the sea area not far from Vermilion City. A large ship floated on the sea. A woman within our logo on the neckline came out of the cabin. One of the rocket's executives, Ariana. It is also the culprit who used the evolution sound wave to make the Pokémon in the Viridian Forest go berserk last time. There was something wrong with the sea water in front of her, and there were red gemstones floating in the sea water. Suddenly, the red gemstones swam a bit and jumped out of the sea. Like dominoes, countless rubies sprang out of the sea. What is ruby here? All of them are actually tentacle. Their skin color is very similar to that of seawater. They blend into the seawater and cannot be seen at all. The tentacle in front of Ariana is densely packed, and almost all the sea surface is covered with tentacle and sporadic tentacruel. People with trypophobia are afraid that they will pass out on the spot. But these tentacles seemed a little abnormal. The formation was neat and orderly. There were thousands of them, but there was no panic at all. And these tentacles' eyes were dull, as if they were under control, and there was no agility in their eyes. Ariana looked at the outline of Vermilion City in the distance and snorted coldly. She also saw a strong burst of energy and a crushed tsunami. Where's the experimental subject? She asked the subordinate behind her. A white light flashed, and tentacruel appeared in the sea in front of Ariana. The size of this tentacruel is more than twice the normal size, and this is the experimental body they produced from the breeder. Has tentacruel seen that continent? Ariana pointed to Vermilion City in the distance. That city used to be your home. The humans there kept hunting you, drove you out, and then built a harbor. It's time for you to retaliate now. Because I got news that the humans in that city are going to kill you all. Behind Ariana, there's a Pokémon with saffron skin color. This Pokémon is holding a rope in its hand, and the rope is hanging down, tied with a ring. This is the hypnotic ring. This Pokémon is the hypno of the psychic system, the hypnotic Pokémon. The hypnosis ring was shaking rhythmically, and there was a sound wave amplifier in front of it. The hypnotic sound waves are amplified. Ariana's voice seemed to enter Tentacruel's head with some magical power. Suddenly, Tentacruel's eyes were dull, and then his eyes became extremely scarlet. A roar came from his throat, and he looked at Vermilion City full of hatred. I will give you the power of vengeance. A syringe was taken out from an instrument, and the syringe contained a scarlet liquid, and it injected the liquid into Tentacruel's body. Go, lead your people to revenge. Let the humans who occupy your homeland see how powerful Tentacruel is. Ariana's voice was like the whisper of a devil bewitching Tentacruel. Tentacruel roared, and the red gemstone on his forehead burst into brilliance. Its tentacles are constantly swimming in the sea. Not only it, but also the densely packed tentacles behind it. The jewels on its forehead lit up, and the tentacles dangled in the underwater like octopus normal. Suddenly, the calm sea surface did not know why there was a wave. In an instant, huge waves on the sea surface surged, one wave after another, and the waves rushed over in a hurry. But very strange. The surge came and stopped in front of Tentacruel. Does not rush into the sea in front of Tentacruel. It seems that there is a mysterious force controlling these waves. The Tentacruel and tentacle swarms surged across the sea. Not long. The sea level where the Tentacruel group sits is constantly rising, and the sea level is constantly rising. The stormy waves hit the shore, the sea roared and roared, and the previously calm sea was completely changed. The sight is full of surging waves. Huge waves rushed over one after another dizzyingly, constantly advancing the Tentacruel where they are located and has raised the sea level. Subsequently, the Tentacruel group was pushed forward by this wave. As it continued to advance, it finally turned into a huge wave. Under the superimposition of wave after wave, it finally turned into a wave of tens of meters. Moreover, let the continuous waves pu heap big wave forward, and these waves will merge into the big wave. While moving forward, this big wave is also constantly climbing. In an instant, it had reached a height of 50 meters. This big wave, or tsunami, swept towards Vermilion City. The height of the tsunami was still climbing, and it had already reached 100 meters. The medicine should have worked. It's the only experiment that fits. Ariana glanced at the time. Stab! On the waves of the tsunami, Tentacruel suddenly burst out with red light from top to bottom, and its body was constantly expanding in the red light, changing violently. After a good while, Tentacruel's size has become extremely huge, as large as 40 meters, as if it had undergone a gigantic normal. Ariana looked at it, as if looking at a perfect experiment, permanently maximizing. Unfortunately, just such an experiment is suitable for the experiment, and it will also cause permanent damage to Pokémon. It rides the waves. The ruby on its forehead glows more scarlet. The sea behind it is more turbulent, and the waves merge into the tsunami, causing the huge waves to climb zero. Throw in the chosen Magikarp. Ariana said. The subordinate next to him pressed a button, and a hatch on the hull suddenly opened, and water gushed out. Carrying a red figure after another, it fell on the sea. The red figure is a Magikarp, densely packed, thousands of them. The waves swept across, and these countless Magikarp were swept into the tsunami, dyeing the huge tsunami with blood. Let's start, Ariana said again. On the hull, a huge signal tower rises, and there's a huge thing like a pot lid on the top of the signal tower. An invisible wave spread out, stirring the air. In an instant, the huge tsunami was covered with bright white light, and it was daylight, extremely dazzling, as if there were countless incandescent lamps shining. Tentacool evolved into Tentacruel. Magikarp evolved into Gyarados. The turbulent waves continue to advance against the tsunami and merge into the tsunami continuously, making the whole tsunami continue to climb in the process of advancing. 100 meters, 110 meters, 150 meters. Vermilion City. Jenny and others are preparing to leave, count the losses, and investigate where the tsunami came from. Unexpected. Walking ashore, the sea water on their calves retreated sharply into the water. The sea water of the entire coast is constantly rushing back to the sea. In an instant, all the seawater near the coast disappeared, and the seabed appeared, revealing the wet sand. Without the buoyancy of sea water, the ships docked at the harbor dock directly came into intimate contact with the sand under the seabed. This scene stunned Jenny and the others. What's wrong with this? Boom! The earth trembled slightly, and there seemed to be tens of thousands of horses galloping on the distant sea. Half an hour later, this slight tremor directly turned into a landslide and tsunami, and the earth shook violently, as if an earthquake had occurred. At the end of Jenny's field of vision, a horrible scene also appeared. A tsunami that was several times more terrifying than before. The terrifying sea water climbed violently. From a distance, it seemed that the sea was tilting, and the entire sea was tilting towards Vermilion City. Moreover, as the opponent approached, the height of the tsunami continued to increase, and its momentum was extremely ferocious, just like a flood bursting its embankment. Soaring in the sky, suddenly darkened. There is still a long distance from Vermilion City, and the sky is already covered with sun. Jenny and the others saw that their pupils dilated sharply and their hair exploded. This terrifying tsunami had already climbed to a height of 400 meters. Their throats were wriggling with difficulty, and they were all absent-minded and terrified. Hurry up and evacuate the crowd. Jenny's vocal cords were trembling slightly. The words fell, and the shrill sirens echoed throughout the city. In fact, without them evacuating, the people in the city already knew about it. This terrible sound attracted the attention of the people in the city, and then they realized that the soaring in the sky dimmed. 10 headed towards the sea. All fell into a daze, followed by fear spreading in their pupils. What? A high-pitched scream from a female trainer is like some kind of switch. Then, tip growl one after another. The city fell into panic. People with flying Pokémon rode Pokémon deserters to climb up and escape from here, and flew towards the inner Lu Fong of Vermilion City. Trainers without the flying system sit on their own land Pokémon, racing wildly. At first, the riots were only found in the urban areas near the coast, and the urban areas far away from the coast did not know what happened when they heard the harsh sirens. With the frantic fleeing of the people in Harbor City, Even if it was the dominoes that were overthrown, they fled one by one. Finally, the whole city rioted. On the other side, Jenny and the others flew towards the tsunami in a flying Pokémon. The tsunami has climbed to 500 meters, which is higher than Vermilion City's largest landmark, the Vermilion Building. The Vermilion Building is 400 meters long and has more than 100 floors. Water Pokémon, Freeze Ray. Starmie, Freeze Ray. Gyarados, Destroy the Death Ray. Charizard, Heat Wave. The energy surged again, and countless skills blasted on the huge tsunami, wanting to repeat the old tricks to defeat the tsunami. In this terrible tsunami, these skills are like a mantis holding a car, overreaching. The frozen rays just froze, and the moment shattered. Then, is there something there? Suddenly, someone pointed to the inside of the tsunami in horror. When everyone looked at it, their pupils narrowed to a single point. A gigantic figure the size of a mountain stood on the waves of the tsunami. That's a gigantic tentacruel. They turned pale. This tsunami, caused by this stinging giant tentacruel? Attack the giant tentacruel. Jenny made a decisive decision. Since the tsunami was caused by the giant tentacruel, she could only try to defeat the giant tentacruel to see if she could stop the huge wave. Everyone nodded. Then various skills blasted towards the giant tentacruel. The blinding light also caught Tentacruel's attention. He looked over and saw a group of humans. The scarlet eyes suddenly became violent. Humanity? Damn humans! The ruby on his forehead glowed slightly red, and then a water gun with a diameter of more than 10 meters sprayed out. It directly crushed the energy attack of Jenny and the others, and blasted towards Jenny without losing power, and Jenny and the others hurriedly dodged. The huge tentacruel roared, and the sound hit the air, turning into a sonic attack. Suddenly, countless red lights lit up in the tsunami, densely packed, making one's scalp numb. This is actually a tentacruel. The speed of the tsunami suddenly accelerated, and it had already reached the coast of Yeshur. In front of the huge tentacruel was a huge water flow, attacking Jenny and the others. The tsunami is sweeping, and it has arrived in front of Jenny and others, who are going to be swept away and submerged in the tsunami. Run! Jenny yelled, which couldn't be stopped at all. They jumped out one by one, crazy 1,000 degrees. Fortunately, they are all elite-level trainers, and Pokémon is also elite level. If they are of lower strength, they will not be able to run against the tsunami at all. Jenny was terrified. It wasn't a tsunami at all. This is Pokémon Siege. Rumble, rumble. The terrifying tsunami of hundreds of meters finally came to the coast of Vermilion City. In an instant, everything seemed extremely small. The deafening sound echoed between heaven and earth. The tsunami struck with a destructive force. The buildings near the coast were washed to pieces in an instant, as if they were fabricated from mud. The tsunami rushed into the city like a prehistoric beast, carrying countless sundries and ruins, causing cholera. Batches of buildings were washed away, and the streets were destroyed beyond human appearance. The docked ships and freighters in harbor were swept up by the tsunami, and then smashed heavily into the city. A large number of high-rise buildings were flattened by the giant wheel, and deep ravines slid out on the ground. The seawater submerged the entire Vermilion City, turning Vermilion City into a floating city. At this time, the strait is no longer the biggest problem. Boom! Huge tentacruel's 40-meter-high huge body fell into the center of the city, and its huge body directly crushed a building. A dense swarm of normal tentacruel followed, and the dragon roar. Dense, cyan-wood-colored Gyarados also followed the tsunami to the city. Their eyes are scarlet, and their eyes are close to each other. They destroyed all the buildings in front of them, and launched an attack towards the humans who were avoiding the tsunami in the distance. For a while, there were constant explosions and flames in the city. The tentacruels and the Gyarados surged toward areas not reached by the tsunami. Building after building collapsed. With terrifying numbers and terrifying strength, no one could stop them at all. Indigo Plateau. Kanto Alliance Headquarters. They received SOS, the highest level, the highest. Vermilion City has a Pokémon siege. The horrific horror of Vermilion City was broadcast back through the captured video footage. Looking at Vermilion City, which was half destroyed by the tsunami, and Tentacruel and Gyarados, who were raging in the city and destroying everything, their eyes widened in disbelief. Tens of thousands of Tentacruels, nearly 10,000 Gyarados, compared with the former. The number of the latter made their scalps tingle even more, and their hearts were filled with horror. Nearly 10,000 Gyarados. Then, in the video, they saw a mountain-like body. Dynamax Tentacruel. It was a huge Tentacruel. Buildings collapsed one after another. No need to use skills at all. Its huge body was enough to crush everything. No, extremely gigantic can only last for 3 rounds, and the time is not so long. Ultra Ancient Tentacruel. Everyone swallowed with difficulty, recalling the terrifying power of the super ancient Dragonite before. The Yolongda family was almost completely destroyed. No, this is not a super ancient Pokémon. It doesn't have ancient tadpole characters on it. Leave this alone. Let people from the nearby cities come to rescue them. Where's Yolongdu? Where's the 4 elites? They were anxious. If this continues, Vermilion City will become ruins. Moreover, this Pokémon army might spread to nearby cities. Indigo Plateau is far from Vermilion City. Even if it is flying at full strength, it will take 3 hours. By the time they rush over, the day Lily will be cold. A series of orders were issued, and they mobilized all the Alliance investigators, law enforcement officers, Jenny, and elite trainers around Vermilion City, and they all rushed towards Vermilion City to suppress Tentacruel and Gyarados. Compared to Vermilion City, which is filled with panic and fear, Home Island is as peaceful as ever. Liu Chen hugged Celebi, frowned slightly, but still did not appear. The voice in his mind still did not appear. What's wrong? He was vaguely worried. Suddenly, the little guy in his arms glowed with green light. The surrounding plants were growing wildly, and weeds flooded Liu Chen. Bye, Bibi. Seeing that she was in trouble, Celebi was a little shy and buried herself in Liu Chen's arms. Sizer. Feeling helpless, Liu Chen rubbed Celebi's head and shouted at the giant praying mantis trained with Larvitar in the distance. At this moment, Celebi's whole body emitted a green light, and a long whisper came from its mouth. Liu Chen was taken aback. The interval this time is so short. Next second, whoosh! Together with Liu Chen's figure, Celebi disappeared in place and disappeared on Homeland Island. On the big rock next to Xingyue Lake, Guladon seemed to feel the disappearance of Liu Chen. Is this little guy about to awaken his second talent? It seems that he will be able to travel through time soon. Guladon looked at the empty chair, his ferocious head tilted, and the space jumped, teleport, away. Forget it, the master is so strong. No one in this world can hurt him. And the master mobilizes his own laws and spiritual power and can teleport back at any time. It drooped its lower eyelids again, basking in the warm sun. Chapter 79. The terrifyingly huge Tentacruel, Kanto's highest combat strength, multiple attributes. Kanto Waters. Nameless Island. The main base of the Rockets. Boss, Ariana's operation has begun. All the Alliance personnel in the surrounding cities have tried their best to rescue Vermilion City. Our supply ship has already set off from Celadon City. The last batch of supplies has already rushed here. It will take about 6 hours to resist. Archer reported. Giovanni nodded. In this way, it can be guaranteed that the birth of Mutwo will be in the realm of second-level beasts. Mutwo is his lifelong dream, and he created Team Rocket to create the strongest Pokémon. He will stop at nothing to crush anyone who dares to stand in his way, and the Pokémon Alliance is no exception. Boss, Master Ariana sent a video connection request. Please check her latest research results. The last batch of supplies has been successfully dispatched. Everything about Mutwo is proceeding according to the original plan, and Giovanni is in a good mood. He glanced at Mutwo in the training chamber, and there was nothing important to do next. Just wait for the birth of Mutwo. He nodded, then go and have a look. He left the laboratory and moved to the meeting room of the base. The conference room is also full of futuristic technology, and the shiny metal and sci-fi feel are the keynote of this main base. This huge space is not so much a conference room as it is a movie theater. As Giovanni and his group took their seats, the lights in the room dimmed suddenly, and a huge screen in front of them glowed brightly. There are two screens in total, one big and one small next to each other. On the small screen, Ariana's profile picture popped up, and she respectfully said, "Boss." Giovanni nodded, leaning back on the backrest behind him, stroking Persian beside him with his right hand. "Let's go, Ariana." "Yes." On the big screen, the picture pops up. The bustling harbor city, Vermilion City, has changed beyond recognition. 1/3 of the entire city was reduced to ruins, and the huge tsunami carried endless seawater and submerged large areas of buildings, turning Vermilion City into a floating city. Boom, boom, boom. The rampant Tentacruel and Gyarados ravaged the city. They turned into walking missiles, hydro pumps, and destructive death rays constantly emerged in the city, destroying everything in sight. What is even more frightening is the huge mountain-like body lying across the city. Giant stinger jellyfish 137. The destructive power of the huge Tentacruel is astonishing. The tentacles exploded, the air exploded, and a building was directly blasted by it. Wherever he passed, everything in front of him was turned into ruins. The destructive power of using skills is even more astonishing. Even the most basic bubble beam of water Pokémon. Those bubbles that usually look the size of a fist and have no destructive power, under the use of the giant Tentacruel, each bubble is actually 10 meters in diameter. It's just frenzied and appalling. Countless huge bubbles spit out from the giant Tentacruel's mouth, strafing the buildings, falling into the buildings like missiles one after another. In an instant, the flames soared into the sky, and patches of houses collapsed. Giovanni raised his eyelids slightly. "Ariana, permanent dynamization succeeded?" "Boss, it was considered a success, but only this Tentacruel was successful. But besides the Gigafactor, I also added some ingredients to its body. I don't know if it will work, but anyway, after this time, this Tentacruel should be useless." "Add some ingredients?" Ariana said. "For the time being, I don't know if it is feasible, but if it succeeds, I will give the boss a surprise." Giovanni nodded without asking, but asked, "What is the strength of this giant Tentacruel?" "Around the elite class." Giovanni nodded, continuing to watch the feast that their rockets had begun. There is no sympathy in the eyes, but only peace. This is what happens when delusions interfere with the birth of Mutwo. Vermilion City. In soaring in the sky, there are streamers constantly jumping in. It is Jenny stationed in other cities and the law enforcement officers of Alliance to maintain social order. They kept coming from other cities, and when they saw the terrifyingly huge Tentacruel, as well as the huge number of Gyarados and Tentacruel, their scalps went numb. Especially Gyarados, there are so many of them, and all of them are furious contest condition. When Magikarp evolved into Gyarados, he took the initiative to master the Hyper Beam, and when Gyarados entered the Rage contest condition, he would not fall into the Stiffness contest condition by using the Destructive Death Beam. Can burst. Looking at the nearly 10,000 destructive death lights, the incandescent light beams intertwined and illuminated the whole city. Flames blazed everywhere. Explosions continued. Countless buildings collapsed, and huge, etched stones the size of millstones were thrown into the air. For a while, everyone was stagnant in the soaring in the sky, not daring to act rashly, really not daring to provoke them, and even more unable to make a move. Whoosh whoosh, 4 streaks of light flew over. Everyone was overjoyed. Kanto's 4 Elite. Ice-type Elite Lorelei. Fighting Elite Bruno. Ghost-type Elite Agatha. Dragon-type Elite Yolanda. Not to mention, behind them were a group of Alliance investigators, the former champions. The arrival of our highest combat power gave everyone great inspiration. Yolanda looked at the densely packed Gyarados below and was a little puzzled. He had a flash red Gyarados himself. He understands the habits of Gyarados. If Magikarp is a gregarious Pokémon, then Gyarados is solitary. Always act alone, never come and go in pairs. There are densely packed Gyarados in Vermilion City. At a rough look, There are at least 6,000 of them. The large number is a bit scary. Why do these Gyarados gather together and attack human cities together with Tentacruel? Shaking his head, he temporarily put the doubts in his mind behind him. Yolongdu, as the person with the highest combat power and the highest position here, said, "Who is the trump card Pokemon of the electric type and the grass type?" The voice fell, and 10 people stood up. Yolongdu nodded. In addition to the trump card Pokemon and the flying Pokemon you are riding now, you leave one Pokemon as an emergency backup and give the remaining 3 to Jenny. More than a dozen people each took out 3 Pokeballs and handed them to Jenny. Yolongdu continued, "Officer Jenny, you take trainers below the elite level to form a battle line to prevent Tentacruel and Gyarados from further destroying the city." Jenny nodded, took the Pokeball, and led a group of trainers below the elite level to leave. Yolongdu thought for a while, and he had a combat framework in his mind. He said, "Lorelei, you lead a team of elite trainers to take charge of the eastern city. Bruno, you lead a team of elite trainers to take charge of the south. Agatha, you lead a team of ownerless trainers to take charge of the city." Yolongdu warned again, "Remember, start sweeping from the edge, defeat the Gyarados one by one. Don't fly directly to the middle of the Gyarados, otherwise what you're facing is not a Gyarados." The 3 Lorelei took the lead and left with a group of elite trainers to guard the area they were in charge of. Yolongdu said to the 20 former champions of the Alliance behind him, "Separate 10 of you to rescue Vermilion City and help Lorelei and them defeat them one by one." Yes, after some battle planning, there are only 10 people left behind Yulong, the former champions. His eyes looked at the huge figure that was constantly destroying the building. "Come on, let's meet it." A group of people swooped down on the flying Pokemon and threw out Pokeballs. A white light flashed, and their trump card Pokemon appeared. The rest of the main battle Pokemon have just let them follow Jenny to the rear to form a defensive line. In addition to their own trump card Pokemon and the flying Pokemon they are riding, there is only one Pokemon left in their pockets to deal with emergencies. They released their own trump card Pokemon, and they controlled the flying Pokemon to the roof of a safe building to prevent it from being affected by the battle. For a while, 10 champion Pokemon and 1 legendary Dragonite from Yolongdu. A total of 11 Pokemon surrounded the giant Tentacruel. Although it was a siege, to Tentacruel, it was just a dozen or so big rats. Seeing these rats dare to stop him, the giant Tentacruel roared, his eyes gleaming with scarlet murderous intent. Human Pokemon. Everything related to humans should be destroyed. Whoosh bang bang. With a sharp sound of piercing the air, its tentacles slapped towards the dozen or so Pokemon wolves of Yolongdu and others. The Pokemon of Yolongdu and others quickly avoided. Dragonite Thunderbolt, Ampharos Thunder, Ray Pokemon Ray Electro Ball, Torterra Fly Foam Storm. Sceptile, we also use Flying Foam Storm. In an instant, the electric-type Pokemon's body leaped with thunder snakes, and the grass-type Pokemon's body was attached with green energy. In an instant, dreadful yellow and green glows poured from these Pokemon. Champion Pokemon skills are incredibly powerful. You can feel your skin tingling from a distance. Thunderbolts as thick as telegraph poles blasted out. Zazizi Boom. Huge Tentacruel's massive size is a target. Terrible attacks poured into the huge Tentacruel's body, and in an instant, explosion happened, which was deafening. The huge Tentacruel's body was beaten and retreated. Its huge body crushed a house, and dust filled its body. Yeah, Indigo Plateau, Kanto Alliance headquarters, a crowd watched with excitement on their faces. The general base of the Rockets, Giovanni, also shook his head. Electric and grass are all attributes that absolutely restrain Tentacruel, not to mention the skills used by champion level or even legendary level Pokemon. Eat all the skills head on, even if the size becomes bigger. I'm afraid it won't be able to withstand it. After all, this huge Tentacruel is only elite level. Looks like that's the end of it. However, the mission of the giant Tentacruel has also been completed. It successfully caused a devastating blow to Vermilion City and also successfully attracted the attention of the Alliance, so that all the combat forces stationed in the cities rushed to rescue Zhongshu. The last batch of materials successfully broke through the blockade. Good job, Ariana. Giovanni praised. Now that it's over, he can go, and he is ready to get up. Unexpected. Stab! A loud roar came from the screen. Okay, Giovanni stared at the screen, surprise flashing through his dark eyes. I saw that the huge tentacruel stood up and roared to the sky. A terrifying momentum erupted directly from it, setting off a hurricane, whirlwinding everything around it. It actually advanced to the championship level, and it was the peak of the championship level. People are also stunned. What's going on? This is a breakthrough. But the attack worked. Dragonite, Thunderbolt, Thunder Pokemon, Thunder. Torterra, Fly Ye Foam Storm. Since he was injured, it would be easy to deal with. They planned to repeat the old tricks, but they didn't believe that they couldn't do it. Terrible electric skills and grass skills blasted from their Pokemon. The giant tentacruel's body was still a target. Zizi B. This time the attack didn't work. Their skills bombarded the giant tentacruel, and it didn't work? How is this possible? Yolongdu and others also exclaimed, their eyes full of disbelief. How could this be possible? This completely violated the law of attribute restraint. No, what is that? They were shocked to find that on the skin of the huge tentacruel, raised scales appeared one by one without knowing when. The scales are khaki. Suddenly, someone's eyes widened. Isn't this the rock scales on Golem's body? Tentacruel of the water type has grown the rock scales of the rock type plus ground type Golem. Their eyes widened. What exactly is going on? Whoosh whoosh. There was a sound of breaking through the air, and the huge tentacruel swung his tentacles forward slash hands towards a dozen or so Pokemon. Get out of the way. Hurry up in order. But this time, failing to dodge, their Pokemon froze in place. No, they don't want to hide. Instead, can't move. The ruby between the giant tentacruel's eyebrows exudes a scarlet glow, and their Pokemon also have a glow covering their bodies, which fixes their bodies. The bigger the body size, the more powerful the skills will be, and they can't break free at all. Bang, bang, bang. The tentacles burst down, and the drawn Pokemon of Yolongdu and others were blurred. Like meteorite falling to the ground. The ground trembled one by one like broken sandbags, rampaging all the way. The terrible impact made their bodies crush all buildings. Finally, with a bang, it hit the ground and made a big hole. It's not over yet. What followed was that the ruins of countless buildings floated in the air and then roared, smashing towards the place where Yolongdu and others' Pokemon fell. Bang, 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 violent tremors continued. Except for Dragonite of Yolongdu. The Pokemon of the other 10 people were all instantly killed. Their eyes widened, and their hearts were filled with turbulent waves. Psychic, whole body, confusion? Add Golem's rock armor. This giant tentacruel. What the hell is going on? Multiple attribute? Are there even attributes that restrain each other? How is this possible? Indigo Plateau, the conference room, who thought they had dealt with Tentacruel, fell silent again. A needle can be heard. The silence of death is normal. Chapter 80. The gas field, the search for rescue, the operations of Cynthia and Sabrina disbelief appeared on everyone's faces. All of them looked dazzled. Vermilion City, looking at the Pokemon that was instantly killed by his side and the skill used by the giant Tentacruel just now, Yolongdu felt a little dazed. He felt the hairs all over his body explode, as if some kind of existence was staring at him. He looked up, and a pair of huge eyes were staring at him. Discovered. The ruins of a building floated up, roaring towards the roof where Yolongdu and others were. Retreat. Yolongdu and the others jumped directly from the building, released their flying Pokemon in the air, and led them away. They shuttled between the buildings, which blocked the view of the giant Tentacruel, and they managed to leave. Rage's huge Tentacruel found its fury on the building, waving its huge tentacles to destroy the surroundings. You guys go help Lorelei and the others. I'll deal with it. Yolongdu faced the 10 people behind him. Without the trump card Pokemon, their combat power was not enough to deal with the huge Tentacruel, but it was a burden instead. These 10 people also understand, but here it will only be a drag. Then be careful. After talking, go to help Lorelei in the others. Yolongdu came to the roof of a building, and the roof was covered by objects, so the giant Tentacruel couldn't find it. My own Dragonite is the highest combat power here, and all the champion-level Pokémon are instantly killed by it, so I can only get on it by myself. No matter how bad it is, it will be delayed until the rescue of the family and alliance arrives. If I had known, I wouldn't have returned the beast-level Dragonite so soon. Yolongdu's eyes froze, and a powerful aura spread out from his body. His hair was windless, and his clothes were bulging. The Dragonite of Yolongdu let out a roar, feeling the boost power from its master. Its aura soared at this moment. The dragon beard on top of its head soared into the sky, and it had already entered the mode of Yolongdu. It roared and fought the giant Tentacruel. The base of the rockets. Giovanni looked at the huge Tentacruel in the picture. His eyes flashed with surprise, and before he could take the initiative to ask, Ariana explained. Boss, this is gene grafting technology. Gene grafting? In order to successfully clone Mewtwo, they prepared for many years and carried out many genetic experiments during this period. This gene grafting technology is a technology that has been rejected, and its disadvantages are too great. There will be a very strong exclusionary reaction. The genes of Pokémon will collapse directly, and at worst, they will die suddenly, and at worst, they will become a vegetative state. After experimenting for so long, most of the Pokémon had severe rejection reactions as soon as they were grafted and died suddenly on the spot. The only surviving one is Fiero, grafted with the Moltres gene, but it is also on the verge of collapse. Once the power is used, the entire porcelain doll-like gene chain will be broken into countless pieces. In the picture, the giant Tentacruel did not show any symptoms of rejection. Genetic rejection. Pokémon would be worse off than dead. There is nothing unusual about the giant Tentacruel. Giovanni was lost in thought. Looking at the gigantic Tentacruel's huge body, he seemed to think of something. You implanted the gene after Tentacruel became gigantic, right? It really is a boss, Ariana said. Before Tentacruel became huge, I implanted 2 gene capsules in its body. But once it was hit by a violent collision, the scheduled program inside the capsule will be activated. Giovanni nodded, recalling Yolongdu's energy attack. It should have activated the gene capsule at that time. Then he suddenly realized, it turns out that it is the body shape. The original gene and the implanted gene must be 1:1 before the experiment can be carried out. Gene grafting is not so much grafting as fusion. Just like a bottle, the bottle is filled with Pokémon's genes. Gene grafting technology is to forcibly compress the original genes in the bottle and then implant the same number of genes in the bottle at a ratio of 1:1. And the collapse of the genes is that there are too many and the bottle is burst. Today, the giant Tentacruel gets bigger, and so does everything, including genes. As the gene becomes larger, the container bottle containing the gene also becomes larger, originally to compress its original gene. Now, there is no need because the bottle has become dozens of times larger, and the implanted gene can be placed in any corner. Moreover, the number of the 2 has not changed, it is still 1:1, but the gene of the giant Tentacruel has become bigger. Good work, Ariana. It turns out the technology is still possible. Giovanni praised. Ariana has some regrets. However, the genes of this giant Tentacruel will still collapse. Although it is a permanent, gigantic transformation, after the gigantic factors in its body are consumed, it will all shrink back to its original size. In Vermilion City, a battle broke out between the Dragonite of Yolongdu and the giant Tentacruel. But it didn't work at all. With the increase of the power of the Dragonite can't break through the defense. It is too hard, and the opponent's confusion is too strong. With the increase of the size, it can directly hold the own Dragonite. Its Dragonite can barely hold it. Once you quit the Dragon U mode, you will definitely lose. But the good thing is that Lorelei and Jenny successfully prevented the expansion of Tentacruel and Gyarados. He just has to hold on. Stab! Tentacruel has been annoyed by the little bug Dragonite, and more than half of the human city has not been destroyed. It roared upwards, as if issuing some kind of order. Suddenly, the Tentacruel and the entire city seemed to have received some kind of order. and purple mist suddenly spewed out from their bodies. Even a giant tentacruel was no exception. When he opened his mouth to spray, a terrifying purple mist spewed out and spread around. Not long, the area where Tentacruel was located was shrouded in a purple mist, so thick that it was impossible to see the specific details. It's poisonous gas. In addition to the water type, Tentacruel is also a poison-type Pokémon. Most of Vermilion City suddenly turned into a poisonous gas field. The huge Tentacruel's figure disappeared into the poisonous mist. Dragonite, take to the air. Seeing the poisonous gas approaching the Dragonite, Yolongdu hurried to it, and it would be troublesome if he fell into the poisonous contest condition. The poisonous gas surged up, and he himself left in the flying Pokémon to round up with Lorelei and others. "Dude, what do we do now?" asked Lorelei. "This is extremely tricky. Who dares to rush in? This is the poison spewed out by Shush's Hong, Tentacruel. The toxin is thick enough to drip venom. Blow away the poisonous mist." Flying Pokémon were released one by one. Dragonite, use blower. Baijiao, use the blower. Charizard, they want to blow the poisonous mist away. But bang, bang, bang. Stripes of white light shot out from the poisonous fog. The flying Pokémon were hit directly, and they fell straight down one by one. In the poisonous mist, one after another, cyan wood-colored figures soared into the air, floating in the sky of the poisonous mist. Gyarados. The figures of Gyarados densely occupy, soaring in the sky. At this time, they are breathing destructive deathlight, and the target of the attack is the flying Pokémon in soaring in the sky. Yolongdu and the others looked ugly. How could they forget about Gyarados? In this way, the poisonous mist will not dissipate at all. Not far away, nearly 100 Gyarados spotted Yolongdu and the others. White light condensed in front of their mouths. Retreat. They retreated hastily. Bang, 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 bang. The destructive death light blasted down, and an explosion occurred. A mushroom house rose up, and the flames soared into the sky, and everything around it disappeared in the shock wave of the explosion. This power also made Yolongdu and other scalps tingle. There's a poisonous mist on the ground because there are dense Gyarados. How to fight this? Boom, boom, boom. The sound of heavy objects collapsing continuously came from the poisonous fog, and the poisonous fog continued to spread towards the entire city. Jenny and the others could only keep backing away. The situation that had just stabilized was broken in an instant. If this momentum continues, the entire Yi City will be destroyed in one fell swoop. Maybe it will spread to other cities. The city was breached by Pokémon. If it spreads, the entire Kanto Alliance will become the laughingstock of the whole world. The entire region will lose face. Yolongdu frowned deeply. Now only the beast level can deal with this huge Tentacruel. No, the Divine Beast class also has to avoid the edge in the face of this terrible Gyarados. Thousands of them destroy the Deathlight. Who can withstand the bombardment? For a family with beast level combat power, the day Lily was cold when they came here. What to do? Yolongdu was anxious. He saw Dragonite beside him. Huge Tentacruel? Huge. The big ones naturally have to be solved by the big ones. His eyes lit up, and he asked, "Dragonite, is the island where the super ancient Dragonite is located far from here?" Dragonite shook his head and gestured. 20 minutes is enough to come all the way. 20 minutes. Yolongdu flew to a deserted place, took out the communicator, and called Cynthia. Home Island. After hearing Yolongdu's call for help, Cynthia was also shocked when she heard the tragic situation in Vermilion City. Huge Tentacruel, tens of thousands Tentacruel, nearly 10,000 Gyarados. Pokemon Siege. Cynthia didn't know what to do either. Mr. Liu Chun had searched around just now, but he wasn't on the island. According to Guladon, Mr. Liu Chun was out on business. Although Mr. Liu Chen's island is full of mythical beasts, they are not his own Pokemon, and he can't command them. They will not move without Mr. Liu Chen's order. As for the ultra-ancient Dragonite, let alone Yolongdu thinks highly of himself, how can he make the opponent move? Garchomp. Cynthia yelled, and Garchomp flew over. She was going to fly over to have a look. Didn't you see the horrors of Vermilion City? What can you change if you go alone? Sabrina said blankly. Han Hanlong, go and call your little friend over. Let's go fight. Sabrina said to Han Hanlong, who was so bored that he lay on the ground with glazed eyes. Han Hanlong pouted. The master took Shalebi to play, but he didn't bring himself. It was too partial. Its eyes lit up when it heard the fight. Look up and roar. Whoosh, whoosh, 20 beams of light soared from the east coast of the island and landed on the grass under the leadership of the super ancient Dragonite. Han Hanlong let out a low growl, and a Dragonite came out, squatted slightly toward Sabrina, and motioned for Sabrina to come up. Han Hanlong will not let Sabrina ride. Only the owner can get on its back. It's urging Sabrina to hurry up. Sabrina flip, riding on Dragonite's back. You! Cynthia was about to say something. Don't be sentimental. I'm the owner of the gymnasium in Kanto. Sabrina snorted coldly and patted the Dragonite under her body. A group of Dragonites left Home Island with Cynthia and Sabrina. Another side. Stop, stop. Control it, don't teleport anymore. We seem to be back. Luchan looked at Shalebi in his arms and quickly stopped. He's all bad. Star fruit, what the hell is it? What kind of ability has Shalebi been endowed with? It is to let the plants grow wildly, and it is to teleport. He and Shalebi have been hanging out for a long time, and every time Shalebi lights up with a green light, he will be teleported away. Every time it was on the reef where no one was there. He completely collapsed, but fortunately, it was not directly teleported to the bottom of the sea. After teleporting more than 10 times, they were all on the endless sea, and he and Shalebi were messy on the reef facing the sea breeze. Green light came out of Shalebi again. Don't. Hurry up and control it. Bye. Shalebi clenched his small fist, and the green light on his body was suppressed by it. Luchan breathed a sigh of relief and looked up at his surroundings. Doubt appeared in the eyes. Not its own island. At first he thought that it had reached a remote place on Homeland Island, but he carefully identified it. Question marks all over the head. Where is this? Or, let Shalebi pass it on again? Then I rejected this idea. What if it spreads to the sea again? He took a look, and there was a huge, semicircular building in the center of the island. When there are buildings, there are people. Go ask where this is. Luchan hugged Shalebi and lost towards the huge, semicircular building. Mouth. Chapter 81. Mutwo's Killing Intent, Dragonite's First Battle. I heard you were big? Team Rocket Headquarters. Laboratory. How about Mutwo? Life is in good shape, and all data is normal. What about consciousness? Consciousness is sleeping contest condition. Very good. Once it wakes up, once it has a tendency to run away with mental power, restrain it. It is only at the peak of the 3rd level beast, and it can't be born yet. You must keep an eye on it with all your energy. Once there is a mistake, we all have to finish playing. Yes, in the laboratory, experimenters in white coats were communicating with each other. In the huge cultivation warehouse, Mutwo floated quietly in the middle, and the surrounding green liquid was bubbling and bubbling. The tubes on his body are continuously delivering energy fluid to it. Mutwo can feel that his own strength is constantly getting stronger with the delivery of this energy liquid. It felt like its body was full of explosive power. The human beings outside don't know that it is already smelling salts. It controls its own mental power and shrinks in its mind, not daring to diffuse a single bit. It dare not let humans know that it has woken up. Before, several times, it wanted to resist, but was ruthlessly suppressed. Humans injected something into its body, and every time it would make it feel like it was dying, its brain seemed to explode. It couldn't mobilize a single bit of strength. After the severe pain, the brain will soon be very tired, and then lose consciousness. Once it wants to use its mental power to drive confusion and break the cage, it feels like its brain is about to explode. Moreover, in the past few days, with the continuous growth of its internal strength, these humans did not even give it a chance to smelling salts, and immediately suppressed it when its consciousness fluctuated. 920, eat a turtle and gain wisdom. Now, it has woken up, but doesn't dare to make any fluctuations in its mental power. Mental power shrank in his mind. The killing intent in Mutwo's heart was lingering. It's going to ruin everything. It is made by humans. I am not a Pokémon, but a product made by humans, and it is the strongest weapon in the mouths of these humans. Weapons made by humans. Its own existence was born out of human ambition. The meaning of its existence is to help human beings dominate the world. Even the name is not his own, but derived from Mew, beyond Mew. Everything, coupled with the torment Mutwo has suffered these days, makes it full of disgust towards everything in the world. It calmed down and actively sucked the incoming energy zone. Hurry up, hurry up. Wait until the strength increases a bit. These humans will have no chance to restrain themselves. Vermilion City. Ow! What does Professor Oak say? Ginny asked. Because they discovered a problem. These Tentacruel and Gyarados were bloodthirsty, extremely violent, and extremely hated humans. As soon as they find Trainer, they will gather together and pounce on them. Moreover, he is not afraid of death. As if he doesn't know what pain is, he is obviously seriously injured, and an ordinary Pokémon has passed out for countless times. This line of Tentacruel continued to kill like a normal person. That scene made one's scalp tingle. This is very wrong. Jenny secretly noticed that Vermilion City is not too far from Pallet Town. So she hurriedly asked the sisters of the family to send a fainted Tentacruel to the Professor Oak laboratory. The voice of the communicator rang. She is the sister of the Jenny family. How about it? There are results. Professor Oak found that the Tentacruel's contest condition is exactly the same as the Pokémon that ran away in the Viridian Forest. And not only that, this Tentacruel was also forced to evolve, and its body is already a mess. Professor Oak has informed the Alliance. Jenny showed it clearly. As expected, she stared solemnly at the ever-spreading poisonous mist, her face unprecedentedly solemn. This Pokémon siege is really artificial. In this way, I finally know why there are so many Gyarados who have always lived alone. They must have prepared Magikarp swarms beforehand. Then those weird evolution sound waves let Magikarp evolve, and only then can such a large number of Gyarados be gathered. What is this mysterious organization trying to do? Why on earth are they manipulating these Pokémon to attack Vermilion City? The hairs on Jenny's body stood upside down, and her heart was icy cold. The unknown enemy is the most terrifying. What kind of organization is this? Indigo Plateau. Kanto Alliance Headquarters. Meeting room. Boom. In the first chapter, the table was smashed to pieces. Badge of the Kanto Alliance was furious and furious. Revenge. The revenge of Chigago. His eyes are fixed on eruption, and he destroyed 2 bases of this mysterious organization. Is it convenient to destroy his own city? It's revenge, and it's a warning. At the same time as they were furious, fear flashed in the eyes of the Alliance executives. How powerful this organization is. An organization that can destroy a big city in an instant, but they don't know the details of each other at all. This time the Pokémon army was able to break through Vermilion City. So the next time the Pokémon army is approaching the Indigo Plateau, they had to be found out. Even if they dug 3 feet into the ground, it was really terrifying to have such an enemy hiding behind them. Vermilion City. The poisonous mist continued to spread, coupled with the densely packed Gyarados floating and soaring in the sky. Yolongdu and others pushed back again and again. Today, most of Vermilion City has been reduced to ruins. At this time, on the shore, a group of Dragonite rushed towards them. It was Sabrina and Cynthia. Looking at the ruins of Vermilion City, the buildings were cut across, and the buildings were turned into ruins. The violently churning poisonous fog in the city, like the roaring face of a devil. This scene is much worse than what Yolanda described. A bustling city turned into ruins all over the ground. The poisonous sky and the densely packed Gyarados also frightened them. The poisonous fog continued to advance. In the center of the dense fog, the poisonous fog surged, and a mountain-like figure could be vaguely seen building one after another. Judging by this terrifying body shape, it should be the giant Tentacruel mentioned in the Yolongdu communicator. The Dragonite carrying Sabrina places Sabrina on the roof of a mansion on the edge of Vermilion City. Then the ultra-ancient Dragonite let out a low growl and the dozen or so Dragonites flew toward the center of Vermilion City, which is the area where Tentacruel and Gyarados are now. Far away, under the threat of poisonous fog and countless destructive deadlights, the defensive line formed by Yolongdu and others was defeated for generations. A group of champion-level and elite-level Pokémon are fighting Gyarados, although they have successfully knocked down a lot of Gyarados. But they themselves are also scarred and have little physical strength left. Yolongdu's legendary Dragonite is also wearing rough clothes with some scars on his body. At this moment, it seemed to feel something, and it roared suddenly, and joy flashed in its eyes. Feeling the excitement of his own Dragonite, Yolongdu looked around suspiciously, only to see a golden streamer approaching in the distance. All Dragonite. He was taken aback. The family is here? After careful consideration, no, he has never seen these Dragonites before. And just now through the phone call, the support from my own family and the Alliance will still take an hour. Before he could think about it, these Dragonites had already arrived. Lightning condenses on their fists, which is Thunder Punch. Like a sharp arrow, they rushed straight into the Gyarados group. In an instant, Lei Meng flashed. Soaring in the sky suddenly seemed like dumplings were being dropped. One by one Gyarados fell from the sky and smashed into the poisonous fog. If these Dragonites are in no man's land, they will kill the quartet in the Gyarados group. In the tens of meters of airspace around them, not a single Gyarados existed in an instant. Energy surged from their bodies. They flapped their wings violently. A hurricane was set off, and they slammed towards the poisonous mist below. In an instant, the poisonous mist surged and fled towards the surroundings. "Be careful," Yolongdu yelled, because he saw dozens of Gyarados in the distance gathered a dense white light in front of their mouths. And then dozens of destructive and dead lights condensed into a wave and blasted towards the Dragonites. One of the Dragonites stopped blowing, opened its mouth to spit out, and an energy ball continuously enlarged in front of its mouth, blinking like a normal sun. Dragon Rage. Dragon Rage went forward and collided with the beam of destructive light. No parry, no explosion, but to destroy. The Dragon Rage's circular energy ball pushes against the beam of destruction light and continues to move forward. Finally, with a bang, it crashes into the group of Gyarados, causing a violent explosion. The Gyarados, breathing destructive death light, fell toward the ground with a rustling sound. Good, it's so strong. Yolongdu's eyes widened. Where did this Dragonite come from? Of these Dragonites, 4 are responsible for fighting against the destructive death light that may come, and the rest all flap their wings and blow away soon. The poisonous mist disappeared for a little while. The huge Tentacruel's figure was exposed, and the mountainous figure reappeared in the air. It was stunned for a moment, and then furious. Stick! It looked at the Dragonites who were constantly blowing up huge winds and soaring in the sky, and saw fiery wrath in its eyes. It roared, and the ruins around it trembled, then floated up, roaring towards the Dragonites. The Dragonites played Dragon Rage. The explosion set off, and the ruins were smashed to pieces. Tung, tung, tung. The huge Tentacruel was furious, and the huge body ran up and came to the Dragonites in 2 steps. The Dragonites flew in the air, reaching only as high as the forehead of the giant Tentacruel. The huge Tentacruel tentacles danced like a whip and came towards the Dragonite. The Dragonites dodged. The group of Gyarados in soaring in the sky heard the movement and rushed up one after another. For a moment, the Dragonites were surrounded. The roof of a building in the distance. Cynthia looked at the Hanenlong and the super ancient Dragonite, who were stagnant in the air tens of meters in front of her, and a Dragonite that was several circles larger than ordinary Dragonites. Her brows were a little anxious. The Dragonites were already surrounded, and if this continued, it would be all explained. Who is the rival of this giant Tentacruel if the ultra-ancient Dragonite is not shot? A bunch of little bugs flying around was really annoying. The giant Tentacruel became irritable. Confusion rushed out, fixed one of the Dragonites, and the tentacles slammed down, immediately smashing the Dragonite into the ground. Fortunately, nothing happened. This Dragonite was legendary, and this attack couldn't kill it instantly. Looking at the super ancient Dragonite, this size dares to power trip? It growled to the Dragonite leader beside him. The time has come to test your combat power. The leader of the Dragonite ordered, spread his wings and flew, with a thick bloom blooming on the tail white light. Is the dragon skill, Dragon Tail. It rushed over, and the dragon tail exploded on top of the giant tentacruel. It's the size of a teddy for a giant tentacruel. But with this blow, the huge tentacruel was sent flying several meters across. The leader of a Dragonite was a little surprised. It has such a hard skin. It is a beast-level dragon tail. Its power does not need to be said, but it blasted past like hitting a rock wall. PK! When it was in a daze, the giant tentacruel roared, his eyes were red, and he was actually repelled by a little mouse. Unforgivable, unforgivable. A terrifying aura emanated from it, and it strode forward, trembling because of the rumble of the ground. The whole body of mental power was vented, and one building after another was pulled up by confusion and floated in the air. Countless Gyarados' mouths condensed broken 5.5 necrotic light, aiming at the Dragonites. Yolongdu's face turned slightly pale. It's over. This group of Dragonites will be lost here. Far away, Cynthia was extremely anxious. Didn't the super ancient Dragonite make a move yet? Aren't these its servants? At this time, the super ancient Dragonite nodded slightly to the Dragonite leader. The leader of Dragonite understood, looked at the huge tentacruel, bared his teeth, and you can grow bigger? It growled. In an instant, black tattoos appeared above its ears, and the tattoos bloomed with faint light. The rest of the Dragonites couldn't hold back for a long time. They didn't dare to grow bigger without the order of the super ancient Dragonites. Just now I've been pressed and beaten, and my heart has long been annoyed. Now that they were allowed, they growled one after another, and dark tattoos appeared on various parts of their bodies. What follows is, a dark red light erupted from each Dragonite's body, and the tattoo spread rapidly. Boom, boom, boom. The figures of the Dragonites quickly rose up and cracked, and the huge body squeezed the broken building next to it and collapsed. At last, 19 mountain-like figures straddle the sky and the earth. There are dark tattoos on their bodies, and faint light blooms from the tattoos. Supporting them is like the half of 19 demon gods. Cynthia stared in astonishment, her small mouth slightly opened wide. This ordinary Dragonite can also become bigger? Far away. FK, Yolanda looked at the 19 Dragonites. His eyes almost popped out. I've been feeling dizzy with a cold for the past few days, and my contest condition is a bit bad, so I need to adjust it. Chapter 82. Gigantic? Gigantic? Super ancient gigantic? The huge tentacruel Mutuo, who was hit by the hammer, went berserk. 19 huge Dragonites straddle the sky and the earth, and the mountain version makes people daunting. They all have black tadpole tattoos on their bodies, and a faint light floats on their bodies, reflecting these Dragonites like a demon god normal. Everyone in Vermilion City stared at this unbelievable scene with wide eyes. The smallest of these giant Dragonites is about 25 meters, and the largest one is even a head taller than the giant tentacruel of 40 meters. Together with the huge tentacruel, a total of 20 huge monsters stand in Vermilion City. Everything around him seemed very small. These people, in the eyes of these monsters, are like ants. Jenny and the others seem to be getting to know this world for the first time. As a big family, they naturally know some things about history. Pokémon of this size existed only in ultra-ancient times. Why did 20 huge Pokémon appear all of a sudden? And they looked at the tadpole runes on the 19 Dragonites. Unlike the giant tentacruel, these runes are only available on ultra-ancient Pokémon. So, these Dragonites are Dragonites from the ultra-ancient period. Jenny is a little confused why there are so many super ancient Dragonites. These huge Dragonites are not the super ancient Dragonites that wiped out the whole army of Yulong family. In this world, there are so many super ancient Dragonite. Looking at the 19 huge Dragonites, Yolongdu recalled the excitement of his own Dragonites before. He couldn't be more stupid to know where these Dragonites came from. Team Rocket's headquarters lab. Impossible. Ariana looked at the 19 huge Dragonites and was horrified why there are so many ultra-ancient Dragonites now. They should have been extinct long ago. And these Dragonites were obviously of ordinary size before, but they suddenly became larger. Is it possible that the ultra-ancient Pokémon did not disappear at all, but could freely become larger and minimize, hiding in the corners of this world? Ariana's eyes flickered, but she was quickly overruled. This is unlikely to happen. To create Mutwo, search for Mew's genes. Team Rocket has secretly explored a lot of ultra-ancient ruins through the information left by humans in the ultra-ancient period. Their exploration of ultra-ancient times and their secrets of ultra-ancient times are much more than Pokémon Alliance. In the ultra-ancient period, the world has changed drastically, and the power of Pokémon has been weakened. A rule that allows Pokémon to remain huge has been pulled away. According to their speculation, this kind of rule has gone through a long period of time and finally turned into an extremely huge fossil. But the times have long not supported the emergence of such a huge body. Even if it is extremely gigantic, it can only be maintained for 3 rounds in a specific venue. It is impossible to reproduce the glory of the ultra-ancient period. The previous ultra-ancient Dragonite should be one of the few. For some reason, it has survived from the ultra-ancient period to the present. When she knew that there was an ultra-ancient Dragonite, she was studying permanent dynamization. She also tried to track down the whereabouts of the ultra-ancient Dragonite, but all failed. Speaking of ultra-ancient Dragonite, she suddenly remembered a very important thing. More importantly, too small, too small. According to the records of super ancient ruins, the minimum size of super ancient Pokémon is about 50 meters. These Dragonites are generally 25 meters to 40 meters long, and the largest one is only more than 40 meters long. 09 didn't even reach the smallest size of the ultra-ancient Pokémon. These should not be Dragonite from the ultra-ancient period. Ariana's eyes twinkled. A thought emerged in my mind. Permanent extreme giantization, these giantized Dragonites are not ultra-ancient Dragonites at all. From the incomplete ultra-ancient runes on them, it is known that these Dragonites are not pure ultra-ancient Dragonites. The reason why they can become larger and have super-ancient features is because of the ancestral giantization. She has been studying the extreme giantization of Pokémon, and also knows that some Pokémon will show different postures after extreme giantization. Some Pokémon with high blood concentration will have obvious changes in their physical characteristics after using giant fossils to make them gigantic. Originally, extreme giantization was simply to enlarge the body size, but this is not the case for some Pokémon. After they become extremely gigantic, not only will their body size become larger, but their appearance and shape will also be greatly different. Even Pokémon of the same population are fine, but it is rare for some Pokémon to appear among different individuals. Team Rocket once invaded Galar region and stole a piece of information. According to that data, the reason for such individual differences is the problem of blood concentration. If the concentration is high and close to the blood vessels, it will produce different extremes. This kind of extreme giantization is named ultra-ancient extreme giantization, abbreviated as supergiant. The body shape and form of a giant are different from ordinary giants. The body size of the supergiant is larger than that of the supergiant, and it is closer to the form of the super ancient period. The supergiant appearance has also become more different, closer to the appearance of the super ancient period. The champion of Galar region, Dandy's trump card Charizard, is a Charizard with blood concentration returning to the ancestors, capable of super giantization. But even if it is super giant, due to the restrictions of the rules of heaven and earth, this era has not allowed Pokémon of this size to appear again. Megamax also only exists for 3 turns. These Dragonites in front of them have existed for a long time, and they don't have super giant red lights on their bodies. It also means they are not controlled by time. Someone has developed a permanent super giant. A thought popped in her mind, and then she was horrified. It was only a fluke that breeder produced a semi-finished product like a huge Tentacruel. And it's just a permanent Supermax, not a permanent Supermax. The number of Pokémon returning to their ancestors was too small, and she couldn't find a single Tentacruel among the tens of thousands. However, the other party found 19 Dragonites that returned to their ancestors in batches and produced 19 Dragonites that were permanently self-transformed. Her throat was wriggling with difficulty. Tentacruel is an ordinary Pokémon. A lot of them were caught in the sea, and even tens of thousands of them did not find a single Tentacruel that returned to their ancestors. Dragonite is the quasi-god of Kanto. The number is extremely rare, but there are 19 Dragonites who returned to their ancestors. As for the Dragonite family, she immediately thought of the Yulong family, but was rejected later. If the Yulong family had this strength, they would not have been bullied so badly before. Since it's not the Yulong family. B. She looked horrified. Kanto, there is still an organization scarier than Team Rocket. Ariana didn't hide anything and told Chung Shu about the situation. After Giovanni listened, his eyes and pupils shrank slightly, even though his expression remained unchanged. The entire Kanto, most likely, there is a hidden, deep organization. Giovanni's eyes flickered with suspicion. He thought his rockets were the biggest hidden force in Kanto. Looking at it now, there's another force that is not hidden deeper than the rockets. What does the other party want? What is the purpose of letting your permanent super giant Dragonite appear on the stage in a high-profile manner? For a moment, his brows were furrowed into a ball. After a long while, his brows were loosened, and indifference appeared on his face again. Mutwo is about to be born. No matter how deep it is hidden, no matter how much it is planned. So what? Mutwo was born. I'm not afraid of the whole world. On screen, Ung-Ho. 19 giant Dragonites surrounded the giant Tentacruel. Huge Tentacruel's huge pupils flashed panic and amazement. How did these many small flying insects become huge in an instant? Moreover, there's another one that is a full head taller than itself, and it has to look up to see the opponent's nostrils. Huge Tentacruel panicked. Bang, 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 bang. The white light condensed, and countless destructive death lights bombarded the Dragonites. The eyes of the Dragonites shone with disdain. A bunch of Gyarados who aren't even quasi-elite. If they were still in their original shape, with so many destructive death rays, they would not be able to back off by 3 points. These days, it's like a tickle itch. But even mosquito bites are a little annoying. Ung-Ho, the Dragonite leader, let out a low growl. With the increase in size, even the low holes resounded like thunder in the soaring in the sky. The thunder light in its hand is condensed. It is the Thunderlight Fist. This Thunderlight Fist is huge, as if it is holding a normal thunder pool in its hand. He opened his palm and slapped the group of Gyarados on the head. Bang, bang, bang. It's like swatting mosquitoes with an electric mosquito swatter. The dense Gyarados fell down, and Reba emptied a large area. More than a dozen Dragonite slaps continuously. Not long. The number of Gyarados in soaring in the sky is nothing. Solve the annoying little bug. The Dragonite leader stared at the giant Tentacruel with a grim expression. It seemed like you had a lot of fun bullying us just now. A growl. A legendary Dragonite couldn't bear it long ago. This was the one that the giant Tentacruel used to confuse it just now, and then slapped it on the ground. The white light condensed on its fist, and it condensed an energy dragon claw. Under the huge body size of 30 meters, this energy dragon claw was frighteningly large. Bang, bang. The huge Tentacruel was directly sent flying. The huge body rubbed against the ground continuously, turning into a huge bulldozer, and all the ruins were leveled by it. A frightening gully was rubbed on the ground. Stab! The huge Tentacruel stood up from the ruins in pain, and the roar hit the air, turning into sound waves and sweeping the audience. Then, as soon as I stood up, I saw the 19 Dragonites striding forward, clenching their fists. They beat up the giant Tentacruel. Directly kick the giant Tentacruel as a ball. Huge Tentacruel was so beaten that he couldn't even get off the ground. PK. The huge Tentacruel took advantage of a gap. The ruby on his forehead flickered, and the huge figure disappeared directly and came to the coast. Teleport. Its eyes were scarlet, and it hurt all over. PK. A growl. The ruby on its forehead is bright, and the whole body exudes a strong blue light. In the sea, in the distance, the waves roared. Countless seawater rose into the sky, and the water molecules in the air were pulled away, gathered before the gigantic tentacruel. It turned into a terrifying water mass, which was so huge that it covered the sky and the sun, and a steady stream of sea water poured in and was constantly being compressed. Gigantic ability, Max Geyser. It just wanted to use it and found that. These 10 in front of the mouths of the 8 Dragonites. There's a piece of brilliance, and the strong wind is constantly compressed by them. Extremely large skills, Max Airstream. Targeted by the 18 extreme skills, the fury in the furious giant tentacles' eyes disappeared instantly. Cold sweat trickled down its forehead. Boom! 18 Max Airstreams blasted over. Max Airstream is an extremely powerful skill of the flying system, which compresses countless wind powers and turns them into terrifying spiral wind columns. Huge tentacruel feel using Max Geyser. The water polo that was compressed to the extreme in front of it suddenly blasted a water column across the sky, shooting straight out. But this Max Geyser encountered 18 sharp wind pillars. The two collide together. Max Geyser collapsed immediately, without even a trace of struggle, turned into countless torrential rains, and sprinkled the entire Vermilion City. The gigantic tentacruel was afraid. His body lit up with a dim light again, and he wanted to use the teleport to leave. But it forgot there were 19 Dragonites. Above its head, it doesn't know when dark clouds will cover the top, and the black clouds will overwhelm the city and threaten to destroy it. The Thunder Snake, which is several meters thick in the clouds, is beating. Then scoff, thunder and lightning flashed, and a Thunder Snake more than 10 meters thick smashed down from the middle of the dark clouds, right in the middle of the giant tentacruel trying to use the teleport. Suddenly, the mental power condensed by the giant tentacruel was smashed, and a mournful growl came out from its mouth. The terrifying lightning mang is attached to its body, and there are tiny arcs of lightning wandering throughout the ground of Vermilion City. This is a great skill, Max Lightning. Although the huge tentacruel has the genes of rock plus ground and the rock armor of Golem on the body surface, it does not help at all. Also, the giant tentacruel fell into a paralyzed contest condition. I couldn't move my whole body. In its field of vision, 18 huge energies are constantly amplifying. Boom, boom, boom. In an instant, a terrifying white lit up, filling the entire world, and white seemed to be the only color in the world. A huge semicircular explosion circle covered the ground, then exploded, turned into a mushroom cloud, and pulled up. Terrible shock waves set off, destroying everything. No, come down. Soaring in the sky seeing the shock wave in the air, Yolongdu and others quickly descended. The Dragonites fought near the coast of Harbor, while Jenny and the others were on the edge of the interior. It is more than half of Vermilion City apart. The shock wave passed by, a group of people turned on their backs, their minds suddenly went blank, and there was a buzzing sound in their ears. After a long delay, the discomfort on my body finally disappeared. Jenny and a group of trainers rode her own Pokémon again, flew to soaring in the sky, and looked at the place where they fought. The pupils suddenly narrowed to a point. Disappeared. This time there was no big hole. But disappeared. The entire harbor coast has disappeared, and the seawater has flowed backwards, forming a huge lake. The scene is like a round cake. A small circle was hollowed out from the edge abruptly. Their scalps were numb, and with one blow, the entire international harbor was destroyed. This is the realm of God. The huge circular crater produced by the explosion, the sea water poured back, forming a large lake. On the lake, a huge tentacruel floated on it. His eyes rolled in circles, and he had lost consciousness. Its body was shining red, and it let out a painful howl in a coma, and then its size shrank rapidly. Boss has been resolved. The ordinary tentacruels receded like the tide, and the Gyarados also flew one by one, fleeing back into the sea. Ong-ho-ho! The Dragonite from Yolongdu flew over, seeing their huge size. Envy flashed in their eyes. If he stayed on the island, he would be able to grow bigger too. On that island, its power is growing really fast. Unfortunately, without permission, it dare not go. The leader of Dragonite nodded to the Dragonite of Yolongdu. The blood concentration of this Dragonite is enough, but it is a human Pokémon, so the boss didn't teach it how to activate the blood. Solve the crisis in Vermilion City. A group of Dragonite flapped their wings and left. Far away, above the building, Sabrina and Cynthia are floating in the air, and there are many broken stones floating around. The building where Cynthia and the others stayed, because of the terrible explosion, blasted an 8-story ruins up and blasted towards the roof of the building where they stayed like shells. At that speed, there is not even time to release Garchomp. Just when Cynthia thought it was over, she found her body floating up, flickering to the side. Thank you. Cynthia breathed a sigh of relief when she meant that Sabrina released Alakazam and saved her life. She saw Sabrina, whose eyes were bursting with strong blue light, and her eyes were dull. Isn't this the posture of a superpower Pokémon using confusion? Why does Sabrina use confusion that only Pokémon can use? You. Cynthia stuttered. If it weren't for the fear of being told by Master that I would not save you, I would not have saved you. Sabrina snorted coldly. You haven't released your Garchomp yet. Cynthia let it out quickly. The two rode up. Hand long, it's settled. Let's go back. I don't know if the Master has come back. If he knows that we ran out, maybe you have no food or fruit to eat. She said to Han Long in the distance. Han Long is immersed in excitement. So strong. How can my Han Long subordinates be so strong? Then he straightened his chest out. Me. Han Long is invincible. Men are also invincible. When she heard Sabrina say that she would be reprimanded by her master if she went back late, and she had no food or fruit to eat, she immediately relaxed. I remembered that day because I was playing the gym with Larvitar. I was looking for the gym for too long, and I couldn't return at night. Then the next day, he was chased by the owner with a hammer, chasing Man Xiaodao, and running around. It shrank its head. No, I have to go back quickly. I, Han Long, are not the most invincible. The Master is much more invincible than myself. It growled and followed Garchomp away. When flying, there's a bright light on the sea that attracts it. It flew down and picked up a big bag from the sea. Out of curiosity, I opened it and saw that it was a black thing with 2 black discs, and the shelf was placed on the ear. Tilting his head, thinking about it, it seems that some human beings carry these things on the bridge of their noses. It put this thing on the bridge of its nose. Look at the reflection in the water. His eyes lit up, and he was suddenly excited. No wonder humans like to wear it. It turns out to be so handsome. It took out a large one from a bag and handed it to the super ancient Dragonite. Seeing Wong wearing it like this, it did the same. He's handsome, and makes Wong even more domineering. Han Long distributed one to all his subordinates, and the Dragonites put it on, and nodded in satisfaction, looking at the reflection in the water. The king is the king, making himself so handsome all at once. And the sun is not so harsh. Han Long flapped his wings, caught up to Sabrina again, growled at Sabrina, and raised his head, showing off. Sabrina and Cynthia looked over their shoulders, seeing Han Long and a group of Dragonite behind him wearing something on the bridge of their noses. The two opened their mouths slightly. Cynthia, can you imagine a group of Dragonite wearing sunglasses? 150? And none of these Dragonite tattoos have been hidden yet. Tattoo sunglasses. Big flower arms this. Another suit. This is a group of big brothers. Cynthia looked at the group of Dragonites that had returned to their original size and had a vague guess as to why their size had become larger. The ultra-ancient Dragonite had asked for extremely huge fossils from the Yulong family before, and combined with these 19 huge Dragonites, it is not difficult to guess what happened. This ultra-ancient Dragonite has the ability to keep Dragonite permanently extremely large. Seeing that Sabrina and Cynthia were shocked by him, Han Long was very satisfied. Sure enough, I, Han Long, am not only invincible, but also handsome. Ho! It let out a low growl. It had been out for a long time, and hurried back, not knowing if the master had come back. So let it see its handsome self. Unnamed Island. Rocket's General Base, Conference Room. Watch Tentacruel and Gyarados as the tide goes out. Giovanni also knew the game was over. Recalling the 19 huge Dragonites in his mind, a haze rose in his eyes. Archer, Ariana, check to see if you can find out this mysterious force. Yes. Giovanni wasn't too worried either. The strongest Pokémon in the world will be born soon, and at that time, he will be fearless. Beside, huge lab. Immediately, Mutuo's mental power curled up in his mind, suppressing the excitement in his heart. Immediately broke through. Immediately, this cage will be destroyed. He sucked the energy in the energy liquid. Finally, it was as if quantitative change had caused qualitative change. Something broke inside it. Buzz, Mutuo has broken through the second-level beast. A researcher in a laboratory looked at the data on the screen and yelled, Quick! Restrain the power of Mutuo. An anxious voice came. Mutuo should be able to break through to the second-level beast tomorrow, and the last batch of supplies hasn't arrived yet. How could it break through? A group of researchers hurriedly injected Mutuo with medicine through the tube. They breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately in time, Mutuo did not wake up, otherwise it would be bad. Hurry up and call the boss. Mutuo has already been promoted to the second-level beast, and the speed is much faster than we imagined. They twinkle with joy. Mutuo is about to be born. At this time, a red warning word lit up on the screen. The most critical consciousness inhibitor can't be injected. They were shocked to find that the medicine seemed to be isolated from the outside by a force, and they couldn't inject it at all. This is the most critical will inhibitor, which can make Mutuo fall into a deep sleep. They looked at Mutuo in the incubator with amazement in their eyes. Quickly, then activate the genetic program and force Mutuo to sleep. The program launcher is in the hands of the boss. Then go get it. At this time, Mutuo's tightly closed eyes opened suddenly, and a pair of light blue pupils flashed with killing intent. Bang, bang, bang. Terrible confusion vented. Ka. The tubes connected to the body were broken one by one. In front of the special glass that can resist the super energy system Pokémon confusion, there are dense cracks. Then boom, the entire glass shattered, and the glass slag and the green energy liquid exploded like a goddess scattering flowers. A powerful momentum erupted from Mutuo. Bang, bang. A strong wind blew up, and everything was blown away. The laboratory suddenly became like a ruin. All the researchers in the laboratory were rushed out, hit the wall, and passed out. Team Rocket headquarters, conference room. Giovanni just finished telling Ariana something. He got up to leave and went back to the lab to see the Pokémon of his dreams. Unexpected, the red fire erupted and harsh sirens resounded throughout the base. What happened? After taking coal medicine, I feel groggy all day long. The relationship between supergiant, and super ancient is not an official setting. It is derived by myself. Schwabiman MO Gang. In the lower right corner of the app, you can see the super giant Charizard. Charizard is indeed the son of the old man. When I play games, I'm always handsome by Danny's Charizard. Chapter 83. Havoc at Team Rocket headquarters. Giovanni's B-Drill Gene Virus. Team Rocket's headquarters. Meeting room. Giovanni has just finished explaining some things to Ariana and intend to see if he can dig out the details of this organization that is more mysterious than himself. He got up, ready to go back to the Mutuo lab. Calculate the time. It won't be long before the last shipment of supplies from Proton arrives. He wants to watch the birth of the strongest Pokémon he has ever dreamed of. Bang, bang, bang. At this moment, the sound of explosions resounded, and the walls of the base trembled. What followed were harsh alarms and rapidly flashing red lights. What happened? Giovanni's voice is low. This is the headquarters of the Rockets, and it is also the most secretive base. The magnetic field in the surrounding sea area is very chaotic, and any ship entering the surrounding sea area will cause the instrument to fail. Without a special compass and chart, it's impossible to find here. Not to mention the secrecy, the defensive force here is even more powerful, and it is not too much to call it the Iron Defense. It's not like breaking through from the outside at all. Since it's not outside, what about in there? Logically speaking, This is impossible. The people in the headquarters are all absolute confidants and cores, and it is impossible to betray their loyalty. As if remembering something, his eyes suddenly widened. He strode towards the laboratory. Boom, boom, boom. There were successive explosions. Boss, something happened in the lab. Archer asked about the situation and said to Giovanni. Giovanni's face changed. It was really an accident in the laboratory. He hurried to speed up. Thick flames came from the door of the laboratory, along with thick smoke. Bang, bang. A figure flew upside down from the door and slammed heavily on the corridor outside. The walls of Orberg were dented. The rocket turtle slid down the wall and lost consciousness. Giovanni hurried in. The laboratory, which was bigger than a football field, was in a mess at this moment, and various instruments fell to the ground. The flames spread in the laboratory. Thick smoke was thick, and many rockets and Pokémon were lying on the ground and howling. Giovanni hurriedly looked at the huge cultivation cabin in the middle of the laboratory. The cabin has been shattered, glass shards are splashed everywhere, and energy liquid flows all over the ground. Mutwo was nowhere to be seen. What little luck remained in Giovanni's heart disappeared without a trace. Really, something went wrong with Mutwo. Where's Mutwo? Giovanni searched nervously, but didn't find Mutwo. Damn it, I shouldn't run away. Giovanni, who has always been prudent, couldn't help but panic. Mutwo is his lifelong dream, the original intention of building the rockets, and the pursuit of his entire life. Giovanni looked around for several times, but didn't see Mutwo, and Giovanni was in a turmoil. What? Thick smoke billowed into the experimental city, and there was a scream from inside. An experimenter was thrown out and fell to the ground and passed out. Boom, 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 boom. The sound of footsteps approaching in the thick smoke echoed clearly in the ears of Chung Mu and the others. A strong wind blows away the surrounding smoke and dust. A figure of Pokémon appeared. It had a thick strong tail. The skin color of the tail was dark purple, and the rest of the skin color of the body was silvery white and purple. It's a humanoid, upright Pokémon with a slightly cat-like face. It came out with a horrifying aura, with fierce and violent eyes, as if it was full of destruction to everything. Giovanni looked at Mutwo. His eyes lit up, as if looking at a peerless treasure. Level 2 Beast. The aura of a second-level beast. Sure enough, it is Mutwo, the strongest Pokémon cloned by recombining and reversing the Mew gene. He conquered the world and made Team Rocket the strongest weapon in the world. As expected, Mutwo, congratulations on coming to this world. Giovanni's eyes were shining brightly, and he spoke to Mutwo excitedly. He was not at all surprised that Mutwo destroyed the laboratory and injured the people in the laboratory. That's the nature of Mutwo. Mutwo is a weapon. It is not like the main body Mew. Mew is mischievous, curious, and peace-loving. What they want is the strongest weapon, not peace-loving. So they reversed and reorganized Mew's gene. Mutwo is synonymous with tyranny, destruction, and incomparable strength by nature. After birth, blowing up the entire laboratory directly means that they have succeeded. This is the character that Mutwo should have. They have successfully created the strongest weapon. This is the effect you want. Mutwo, I am the one who created you and brought you into this world. I am your father. Giovanni stretched out his hand to Mutwo with a gentle smile on his face. Come, join us, and join us in our warm family. Why? A word full of hatred rang directly in Giovanni's ear. Why? Let me come into this world. I am not a substitute for Mew, nor am I your weapon, Mutwo. Then he was startled. He actually mastered the human language just after he was born. And knowing Mew, knowing the fact that he is a weapon, then there's only one possibility. Mutwo has been spying on them, learned the human language from the humans in this base, and preliminarily established its own worldview. It's really scary. In other words, as expected, it is Mutwo, a Pokémon that coexists with destruction and wisdom, now that the other party already knows. As the person who created Mutwo, Sleepy knows the gravity of the other party. There is no need to install it again. It was we who gave you life. We let you come into this world. You have two choices. One is to obediently follow us, rule the world with me, and dominate the whole world. The other is we control you to follow with us, complete my grand plan and great cause. There was a fierce light in Mutwo's eyes. After eavesdropping for a few days, he already knew what kind of existence the group of humans in front of him was. The blue light in the eyes bloomed suddenly, and the instruments in the laboratory floated up, roaring towards Giovanni and others. Call! Lightning flashes, and Archer unleashes Zapdos. With a flash of Zapdos' wings, the wind was fierce, and the roaring thing was immediately covered with moisture. There was a sound of breaking through the air. An energy bomb blasted towards Giovanni and others. 10 electro balls blasted out from Zapdos' body. Bang bang! The two sides collided together, and there was a huge sound in an instant, and the terrible explosion directly lifted the roof of the laboratory, and a mushroom cloud was pulled up. It exploded, and the walls of Orberg turned into red molten iron flowing. Somewhere on the island, Liu Chun, who was on his way towards the semicircular building, suddenly felt the ground tremble, and then a ball of fire exploded from the roof of the semicircular building. He froze. What's wrong? Why did it suddenly explode? Curious in his heart, he quickened his pace and wanted to go over to see what happened. In the laboratory, which is bigger than a football field, Ian's figure is fighting rapidly. It was Zapdos and Mutwo. The battle between the two changed the entire laboratory beyond recognition. Hot molten iron flowed across the ground, and countless precious equipment were destroyed. But all of this doesn't matter. The base can be rebuilt if it is gone, and there are blueprints for instruments and so on, so just rebuild. Mutwo was born. He is very happy to use this base today to celebrate the birth of Mutwo, and to see the strength of Mutwo, by the way. Bang! Among the two entangled figures, one figure slammed to the ground fiercely. It's Zapdos. In the distance, Giovanni, who had moved to a safe place, couldn't hide the joy in his eyes. Born as a second-level beast, press and beat the Zapdos of the third-level beast. Giovanni is increasingly satisfied. That's right. This is the Pokémon he's been dreaming about for countless days and nights. Mutwo was born as a second-level beast with unlimited potential. Soon, you will be able to step into the same realm as Mew and advance to the ranks of first-level beasts. At that time, the whole world can walk sideways. Beat! Zapdos screamed again, was blown out, hit the ground, and made a huge pit. The entire roof has been blown off by the fight between the two, and the sun is shining directly down. Mutwo was floating in the air with a terrifying aura. It stretched out its hand to Zapdos, who hit the ground, and an energy ball condensed. Boom! A mushroom cloud was uprooted again, and the extremely thick Orberg floor of the laboratory dissolved, exposing the original soil below. 2. Mutwo's figure disappeared directly in the eyes of Giovanni and others. Giovanni felt the pain on his back. Mutwo used teleport to come behind them, looking at them with a fierce face. An energy ball in his hand is condensed, and he wants to blow up Giovanni and others to the sky. At this time, whoosh, a yellow light shot out. The speed seemed to be teleporting, and Mutwo had no time to dodge. It gave up the attack and crossed its hands on its chest. There was a bang. Its body was thrown into the air, and it slammed into the Orberg wall of the laboratory, creating a large pit with dense cracks all over it. Mutwo floated up, picking itself out of the wall. Looking at the Pokémon attacking him, his face was a little dignified. It didn't know the name of this Pokémon, but it can feel that the opponent's momentum is not weaker than its own. Giovanni stroked Beedrill's head. This is its trump card Pokémon, who grew up with him, and something changed in the Viridian Forest, resulting in a huge increase in its aptitude and potential, all the way to practice to the first level of the second-level beast. But that's all there is to it. Unexpected, everyone in Giovanni felt a blue light attached to his body, and it was Mutwo who made the move. Beedrill's figure disappeared, and the speed was so fast that it seemed to teleport, and it blasted towards Mutwo, who was using confusion. Mutuo evaded quickly and stopped attacking Giovanni. Mutuo clenched his fist. There's some dignity in my heart, strength here. It is the inhibitory medicine in the mouth of those humans, which prevents the medicine that can suppress the mental power and make oneself drowsy. But some of the rest of the medicine successfully entered the body //. It felt that its body was a little heavy, and it didn't listen to its own commands, and its muscles began to slowly paralyze. Time to go. It glanced at the soaring in the sky outside and felt withdrawn. Before it floats away, Giovanni looked at Mutuo with displeasure and coldness in his eyes, with anger. Mutuo had already peed him off. No matter how satisfied he is with Mutuo, a weapon is a weapon. As a weapon, it actually wants to devour the Lord again and again. Giovanni has a strong desire to control and control. He doesn't allow this to happen. It seems that my connivance has made you feel a little carried away. Giovanni looked at Mutuo. Since I can make you born in this world, I can naturally control you. You have to make it clear that you are just a weapon, and I am the master who controls you. Giovanni twirled the ring on his little finger. Kaka. The ring is a ring with an Arnold circle inside a large ring. Between the rings, there are extremely compact instruments and some small gears. The ring turns. Suddenly, there is a piercing sound. But, although it is harsh, the frequency of this audio is special, and ordinary people and ordinary Pokémon cannot hear it all. Only Mutuo can hear it. The moment Mutuo heard this special sound wave, its pupils suddenly widened, and its eyes were filled with blood. With a bang, his body fell to the ground from soaring in the sky. It hugged its head tightly, roaring in pain, its veins popping. Muscles all over the body are spasming. Mutuo felt like his head was about to explode, as if countless ants were eating his nerves all over his body. Gene Virus. Team Rocket knows what monsters they've created, and they know Mutuo's tyrannical and destructive nature. To prevent it from running away, a gene virus was implanted in its body. Once run away, Giovanni can activate this gene, making Mutuo's life worse than death, feeling that the gene is on the verge of collapse. This gene virus will be activated by specially crafted sound waves. Mutuo was trembling all over. He grinned and stared at Giovanni as he approached. Giovanni looked at Mutuo. Either surrender, or I force you to surrender. You think Mutuo endured the brain that was about to explode as soon as he used his mental strength, forcibly endured the inhuman pain, and mobilized a little bit of strength. The blue glow is attached to its body surface. Next second, Mutuo's figure disappeared in place. Teleport, which uses teleport, is gone. Looking at the empty ground, Giovanni shook his head without any nervous expression. The gene virus in his body was activated. Life was worse than death, and the gene was forcibly disassembled. Being able to use teleport should be a pre-existing power. Where can Mutuo go under this contest condition? Under this contest condition, its teleport is nearby. Go and bring it back. Giovanni said lightly. Yes. A group of people were ordered to leave. In the island, Chen was holding Shalebi and walking towards the semicircular building. Stop! He found that the continuous explosion sound actually stopped. What are you doing? He was a little confused. At this time, bang! Okay. A figure suddenly appeared from the sky. It fell to his feet. Chen, what's going on? Why did it suddenly appear? Then he frowned slightly. It was a Pokémon, one head shorter than himself, silvery white with lavender in it, and a thick // strong purple tail. Is growling in pain. Contest condition is very wrong. Hello, what's wrong with you? Chen knelt down and asked. People, human, buyings, d. Mutuo resisted the pain, opened his eyelids a little, stared at Chen with a fierce look on his face, and just wanted to shoot, but the pain made his whole body convulse again. Chen was taken aback. So much hatred for human beings? You drink this first. Chen took out a full recovery potion from the system backpack. You don't think about it. Mutuo looked at the potion. These human beings are going to pour the horrible potion into themselves again to control themselves. Why are you so disobedient? Give me a drink. Chen poured it directly. At this time, bye-bye. A green light came out of Celebi again. Hold it back. Chen hurried over. But this time, like a blocked flood bursting its normal embankment, Celebi couldn't take it anymore. The terrible green light enveloped it, Chen and Mutuo on the ground. Their figures disappeared in place. After about half an hour, Mutuo was born, and Giovanni sat on the chair, looking at the ruined laboratory in a good mood. He swung the wine glass in his hand. Looking at Archer and the others who came back, a smile appeared on their faces. It appears to have been found. Mainly by training well, Mutuo will soon become the absolute trump card in his hands. He got up, ready to persuade Mutuo. As long as he surrendered well, nothing would happen. "Oh, boss." Mutuo, not found. Archer's voice came. Giovanni's smile froze at the corner of his mouth. Chapter 84. Mutuo. You're Chen? Chapter 84. Mutuo. You're Chen? What did you say? Didn't find it. Giovanni's smile froze at the corner of his mouth. Mutuo disappeared? Not found. What a joke. Are you kidding yourself? Yes, I searched all around, but I didn't find Mutuo. Archer was apprehensive and looked at Giovanni with some fear. Impossible. The Mutuo under the contest condition, the teleport can't run very far. It is probably hidden. Giovanni stood up. Everyone find me. Then, Giovanni took the entire base and searched the entire island, but with no results. Listening to his subordinates coming to report one by one, all the results were not what he wanted. Over time, Giovanni's face was getting darker and darker, almost dripping. He is sure of success in everything, and he is strategizing. For the first time, I felt uneasy. Find it for me, inch by inch, and don't miss the inside of the base. Dig 3 feet to find any corner. Giovanni shouted. Also, how is the surveillance investigation going? The boss is angry. Everyone in the Rockets was silent. Team Rocket, who owns a super Pokémon, released his super Pokémon. Super Pokémon's mental power is released, searching inch by inch. In order to find Mutuo, I am afraid that Mutuo is hiding somewhere in the forest. The Rockets were so frantic that they burned the forest on the island. The flames mixed with dark fog floated into the sky, and the flames danced on the old trees, and finally turned into a piece of coke. All the vegetation was burned to nothingness, and there were scorched marks everywhere on the entire island. It can almost be said to dig 3 feet into the ground, and no corner of 613 was spared. But still haven't found Mutuo. Giovanni panicked completely, as if a person who had worked so hard for most of his life had finally fulfilled his lifelong dream. BT Dash found that the dream was shattered. Boss, there's an unexpected discovery over the video surveillance. Giovanni hurried back to base. On the screen, the picture taken by the surveillance camera is being played. On screen, a blurry figure appeared. His whole body was like a mosaic, like black and white light spots flickering with no TV signal, as if some kind of force was interfering with the picture signal. Obviously, everything around is very clear on the screen, but this man is the only one who is blurred. The figure of this man seemed to appear on the island suddenly. Then he seemed to walk towards the base headquarters with a purpose. Walked a great distance. The mysterious man stopped in his tracks and looked towards the base, as if he was feeling something. Next second, Mutuo fell directly in front of him. Immediately afterwards, the man bowed his head and gave Mutuo something to drink. At the end of the screen, a green light flashed in place, and the mysterious man disappeared along with Mutuo. The last trace of luck in my heart disappeared without a trace. Mutuo is not on the island. Was taken away. Mutuo, which came out of breeder after spending countless efforts, was picked by someone. The person in the picture actually has something that can block the video signal. This is definitely coming prepared. This base is extremely secretive and requires a special compass to get there. It is impossible for the mysterious person to come to the island by accident, and he accidentally carried something that interfered with the video signal and accidentally discovered Mutuo, and finally rescued Mutuo by accident. How could there be so many coincidences? The only thing that can be explained is that the other party has premeditated. Moreover, for some reason the other party was able to guess the time when Mutwo was born. You know, even Giovanni himself, the original plan will be born tomorrow. Then why would the other party know? And he was still waiting at the place where Mutwo used the teleport ahead of time. While Giovanni was furious, doubts flashed in his mind. What's going on? Who in the entire Kanto has this ability? Who can be more secretive than the Rockets? The image of those 19 giant Dragonites came to his mind. Giovanni was furious. His eyes were red, like an angry lion. He roared, Find me the organization with 19 huge Dragonites. Another side. Of course, Chen didn't know what happened at the Rockets headquarters. If you want to know, he would definitely be stunned. It's really a coincidence. Buzz. There was a quiver in the air. Chen's figure appeared on Homeland Island, next to Xingyue Lake. Pika Yuki. Two small figures rushed over and threw themselves into Chen's arms. Looking at the familiar environment and the two little guys in his arms, Chen heaved a sigh of relief. Finally came back. But he glanced down at the Pokémon he had brought back with him. I used the system's probing function to investigate. Mutwo. Is the name of this Pokémon Mutwo? After drinking the full recovery potion, Mutwo was still screaming in pain, and the veins all over his body burst out like little snakes running under the skin. Very scary. Chen frowned, looking at Mutwo in pain. Some things were more than good, and the full recovery potion didn't work either. He returned to the manor and took out several other potions. People, humans, damn died. Mutwo's mouth was roaring, and his facial features were almost twisted, edged together. Chen looked at Mutwo, who still hated humans, even though he was in such pain, frowning. What happened? Why Mutwo hates humans so much? But now is not the time to explore this. Chen poured all the remaining medicines into Mutwo's mouth. B2. Mutwo's symptoms did not alleviate at all, but Mutwo had already roared to the point of hoarse vocal cords. All the medicines were useless. Chen was a little overwhelmed. Looking at Mutwo, who was already in so much pain that he couldn't make a sound, and lay convulsively on the ground, he felt anxious. As if remembering something, Chen put his hand on Mutwo's head. Hope this power works. Immediately, his palm was surrounded by green light, and a strange force emanated from his palm. The power of appeasement. I don't know what ghostly skills they use, but Celebi likes them quite a lot. Every time they use the soothing power, Celebi quickly calms down and falls into a deep sleep. The miraculous power is like the ripples of normal, and the green ripples are like ripples in the water, constantly brushing past Mutwo. Chen's eyes brightened slightly. Sure enough, Mutwo began to quiet down. The howling of pain in his mouth gradually weakened and finally stagnated, and the blue veins that kept wandering under Mutwo's skin also disappeared again. Mutwo's whole body was covered in cold sweat, as if it had been fished out of the water. It was lying on the ground, its chest rising and falling, and it was panting heavily. Chen let out a long breath. At this time, Buzz. Mutwo opened his eyes abruptly, with a scarlet killing intent in them, and it suddenly floated up. The red light in the pupils condensed into substance, pulling out two slender red lights in the air. Recalling the torture just now and all the things humans have done to themselves, it suppressed the still aching brain. Its eyes glowed with blue light, and its spiritual power poured out, driving the calendar. The hatred in my heart is monstrous. All human beings deserve to die. All of a sudden, normal cyan wood-colored light appeared on the surface of Chen's body. Three figures jumped over. Three dog-shaped Pokémon. They came to kill. Mutwo quickly vacated. It was the three holy beasts that were bending down, looking at Mutwo with their teeth bared, and they might launch an attack at any time. Mutwo feels the threat from these three Pokémon. They are not much weaker than themselves, and now they are very weak, and they may not be able to fight alone. And it's not just them. Some Pokémon also surrounded him, looking at him with a fierce look on their faces. Big dog, second dog, third dog, Gyarados sighed, "It's okay, don't be nervous." Chen pushed back Larvitar, who was about to pounce on him. "And you little guy, you want to have small arms and legs, what?" Chen looked at Mutwo. The sound of explosions coming from the round building on that island came to mind. There is also Mutwo's hatred for human beings. and the way it looked like it was dying just now, it is known that human beings must have done something to Mutuo. Otherwise, it wouldn't be so hostile to humans. He looked at Mutuo and said in a gentle voice, "Although I don't know what you have experienced, human beings have done something inhumane to you. But don't worry, it's safe and free here, and I won't hurt you." At this time, Mutuo was floating in the air and couldn't care about the Pokémon who was hostile to him. It looked at Chen. The pupils were wide open, and the eyes were full of disbelief. It stared at Chen fixedly. The fierce light and killing intent in his eyes receded. It opened its mouth, and a voice sounded directly in Chen's mind. "You are Luken." There was a slight trill in the words. Chapter 85. My name is Mutuo. The misunderstanding is solved. Feel the voice ringing directly in your mind. You know me? Chen was a little puzzled. How did the other party know his name? He didn't seem to have told it. Then he froze in place. This voice, why? Is he a little familiar? Then the pupils suddenly widened. Isn't this the voice of the unhatched Pokémon that appeared in my mind before? The two chatted very well, but the other party hadn't appeared for several days, and Chen searched for it for many days but failed. The other party hadn't worried about it before. Now it actually appeared directly in front of me. Seeing the expression on Chen's face, Mutuo knew that he was right. This is Chen. Before, I chatted with myself every day, taught myself to speak and read, and helped me to initially establish a worldview. My only friend in this world, Chen, the existence of being both a teacher and a friend. The tyranny and hatred in Mutuo's eyes melted away, and the hostility on his body also disappeared. It carefully looked around. Is this the island Chen described his words? The place where he plays with his Pokémon every day? It remembers that Chen said that on his island, there are 3 weak and lazy guys. One lying on the big rocks to bask in the sun every day, the other lifting up corpses in the water, and the other breathing star mist under the trees. Mutuo looked at the lake on the side, and sure enough, there were 3 slackers as said in the words. This is the island that it has been longing for all along, the island where it wants to play with Chen after he comes out of Shell Smash. The human being in front of him is his only friend.
No more novels? Take part in the voting. The most requested novels and those with the most likes will be chosen for publication on euroaudiobooks.com. There, I can upload as much as I want without the risk of receiving a strike. Our 18 novels and other content that exceed what is morally acceptable are only published on Patreon or the free novels page. Remember, the site is funded by donations on Ko-fi and Patreon memberships.